Well, good evening, fellow explorers. Welcome to another edition of well, the non-clown world show you've all been waiting for. We've been gone for a couple of weeks. Missed my sister Jennifer. It seems like we've been apart for a while, but
Yes, I
um,
missed you, John. How have you been?
been busy,
Yeah,
busy
definitely.
with real world stuff, I guess. I hate saying that, but yes, busy with real world stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yep.
but it ended up being a good few days, and got to spend some time with the family. And but I have to say that I'm glad to be back, glad to be grounded, glad to be back home. Like
Yeah.
there's something to be said about having your own home turf. Having your own
Yeah.
space, your own abode, your own whatever adjective noun you want to put in there. Um, but I'm excited to be back. I obviously Jennifer and I love doing this, and we've got some brain bakers tonight. I'll tell you. That's all I got to say. There's going to be some.
Uh-oh.
Hopefully, there'll be some oohing and eyeing and some brain scratching and that kind of stuff. But you definitely will need your tinfoil turbans tonight. Definitely will need that.
Good.
Um, and if you haven't been following Jennifer stuff, what's wrong with you? You got to be doing it. Um, she's she's back to her regular scheduled programming where it's gosh, how many shows you got this week? Got a few, but they're good. It's good stuff. Well, hey, Julie's got time to join us tonight. Look at that. There you go.
Hey, Julie. Welcome. Hadn't seen you. I missed you, Julie. Hadn't seen you in a while.
She was working on becoming great. We are at the summit of greatness.
Oh, that
So
sounds wonderful. The summit of
yes,
greatness.
summit of
Fabulous.
greatness.
Everyone needs to have that in their lives, it sounds like.
Well,
A summit of greatness.
they should. If anything, the least they should have is a summit of decency. You should be at least a decent human being. You don't have
At,
to be great.
right.
Just be a
Just at least.
decent human being.
Yeah.
Be open to the truth or open to new ideas, or which is
Yeah.
kind of an interesting thing because I saw something on a video earlier. It was recorded earlier today, but it was he's kind of a newer, I gotta hate using this word. I gotta find a different word, truther. Um, I watched I couldn't watch more than like 5 minutes of it, but it was just hard to get through. But I was looking at the chat, the replay of the chat,
Mhm.
and I'm telling you, there's some haters out there, and there's some very closed-minded people. You know,
Oh.
I can say that I don't agree with a lot of things a lot of people say, but
Mhm.
I'm open-minded. I'm not going to like jump in the chat and call somebody out and say, well, you're going to go to hell if you're a Muslim, or you're going to go to hell if, it doesn't matter if you're a Buddhist, you're going to hell anyway, or whatever. Those are the kind of comments that were popping up in that particular chat. And that's the thing that rubs me the wrong way about, as Charlie Jordan would say, religiosity or whatever. It's like people are so fixed,
Yeah.
like not realizing that there was a number of religions that have been around infinitely longer than Christianity, but yet they have the gall to just come out and say 100% without irrevocation, you're going to hell because it doesn't matter if you're a nice person, if you're a Buddhist, or if you're this or this, you're still going to hell. Like, to me,
Oh.
that's just that
Yeah.
rubs me the wrong way.
Definitely. Like, especially now, we've all grown up out of that. You would think a lot of us need to chill. Hey, Tina, welcome. Yeah, that's not the best approach, is it? So, were you
Right.
saying that this is coming from the host or just the
No,
chat?
this was from people in the chat, like to other
Okay.
people in the chat.
Oh,
like
Okay.
I don't know, I don't remember what the subject was. Like I said, I didn't watch it that long.
Right, right.
But because
Wow.
I just got this real negative vibe
Oh,
as soon as I
okay.
started looking at the chat, just
Oh
like,
boy. Yeah. That's
but
shocking. People are actually saying that in this
yeah,
day and age. I'm just thinking because a lot of us, we were conditioned, myself included, in the churchiosity stuff, like
yes,
Charlie.
yeah,
I was really caught up in that stuff. And I I I would think that people have started to dial it back a little bit and say, wait a minute, maybe I need
right,
to reconsider some of these things that I
right,
was taught and conditioned, and maybe not so much tell people that they're going to hell. That's probably something that, hey, we need to put this on the table for some discussion. Like, yeah.
yes, yeah. I have a hard time believing that because I've met some in my life, some really wonderful human beings, like really, truly amazing, loving, beautiful human beings that aren't Christians. And I have a hard time believing that, and like the people in the background, the naysayers, doesn't matter if you're, a good, loving human being and you're amazing to other people, you're
Mhm.
still going to hell, because of X, Y, or Z. And
Yeah.
I just, I know my God, the God that I believe in, would never do that to one of his children. That was a loving, caring, did things for her or his fellow mankind. Like, I have a hard time with that doctrine, like that hardcore,
Mhm.
not like stay in your lane, don't get out of your lane kind of mentality. That is just, you
Right.
know, sorry, I don't want to start off the show salty like that, but it's
No, no,
just
I
something that
mean,
came up early, and I
yeah, if
just,
it came up, it's definitely worth talking about because I think these debates are. I didn't know things like that were happening in chats. I hadn't seen a chat like that in a while. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm
well,
just
you've got
thinking
good
people.
people in your chat, and most of the people that I at least sort of follow, besides you, I follow you, but I sort of follow other people. Most of the chats are dealing with what the content of the video is. There's,
Good.
very,
Okay.
very little of that. But for
Mhm.
whatever reason, just this morning, this one particular
Wow.
show or whatever,
Hmm.
it just caught me off guard. That's all.
Yeah, yeah. That's upsetting. I mean, yeah. I mean, in all these divided times we're in, I don't think it's whatever. I think people are just needing to just re-educate themselves. Like, we've all been taught a lot of stuff, and now we have to make sure, is it really the way that we thought it
Right.
was? I mean, we need to make sure we
Yeah.
do our research and reevaluate a few things.
Yeah.
I mean, that issue, that's a good subject, I think, probably to take on, is to talk about like the whole subject of hell. Hi, Kimberly. Hell and hellfire,
Right.
damnation, and where did this start? Like, where did the doctrine, like, I'm sure it started in the 1800s, right? I bet if
Well,
I,
even earlier than that. I mean, I just because that triggered me to do a little bit of research, but of course it led me to find things that are probably going to piss people off. So I'm not going to present it here on this show,
Mhm.
um, because it's not like I have a lot of friends, but the friends that I do have, I value very much, and of course you're one of them, and I like Charlie's one of them, and but I have very, very just so few
Mhm.
because I know like Charlie too. He's very his beliefs are very strong,
Mhm.
but he's very open as far and very um like he wouldn't let something if I said something that may not resonate with him or he may not agree with, he's not going to not be my friend because I said it.
Yeah,
He's going to understand where I'm coming from,
right.
and we're going to, we'll talk about it or whatever, we'll move on, but
Mm-hmm.
ultimately we still have a friendship.
That's good.
And
Yeah, that's
that's
that's how it should be, because even a few live streams that I had, like, people come on and people I let them share. Like one guy thought, it might be possible Trump is the Antichrist. And I didn't like shut it down. I'm like,
Right.
you know what? We got to be more grown up. If somebody
Yes.
believes that, let them say it without us being like, because we're no better. Then we're no better than the people that we say
Exactly.
are crazy liberals. Like we should be able to be calm and listen to the person. Like I'm sure they're not saying this just to get like attention. Maybe they've done a little, something they came up with this. I want to hear it, maybe at least, but
Yeah.
it's not going to make me not like them anymore,
And you never know where somebody's headspace is, what's going on in their life, what's triggering this, what's making them say whatever it is they're saying. Sometimes it's maybe they're reaching out for a reason. Maybe they're saying what they're saying is because maybe they're questioning it too. Maybe, who knows? But it's just, but as you said, it's just you can't just disallow things because you don't agree with them, because then, as you said, you're going to just be like everybody else. It's just going to be,
Exactly. I don't want just people that think the way I think. Like it was a guy who said that I was full of BS today on my chat. Like that was like the first time in a long time I've heard anything. And I like that. I mean, it's kind of funny, but he wasn't totally rude. He didn't call me like the N-word or anything, but he was just like, because I was talking about Kerry butter, the Irish butter. I was like, oh my God, I miss Kerry butter, right? And he was like, that's ridiculous. It's $7 a pound. That's BS. And I was like, oh, wait a minute now, mister. You can say that, but you don't have to be insulting, okay?
Right.
And I told him that I didn't send for him, so don't come for me. But, it was funny. I could move on. It was no big deal. I don't mind a troll like that if that's the extent of trolling, because you could easily just whatever, just swat them away. Or I could have ignored it, but I was kind of like a little bit taken back, like, come on, man, are you serious? You think I would really try to buy butter for $7 a pound? Come on now, come on, man.
Come on, that's right. Come on, man.
Yeah, Joe Biden ain't gonna make it that bad around here. We're not gonna let him do that, are we? Come on, America.
If people are worried about Joe Biden, then they're worried about the wrong person, first of all. If they really think he's in charge.
Yeah, right. How about that? But yeah, no, I don't mind. Like I love the discussion, because some people have different spiritual systems, I'll say, and I believe that all of us have this, like when we get together in these chatmospheres, we tend to want similar things. It doesn't matter if you believe in UFOs and you call them the blues and the grays and the purples. I don't care, okay?
Or demons, or whatever.
I don't care if you date aliens and you go off on the spaceship every day with them, okay? And you have alien children, as long as you treat them good.
That's right.
Okay?
As long as you're not a groomer. Sorry, YouTube.
Putting them in Disney movies, I don't mind, okay?
Hey, Becky.
So, yeah, just stay away. Don't mess with the kids and the animals, and consenting adults doing things. I can't govern people, but that's why we agree. It's like, I don't care, as long as you agree that children and animals and old people, vulnerable people, should be protected. Then hey,
yes, that's what I was trying to say at the beginning. If you're a good human being, like you said, if you're dating an alien and you're whatever, you got purple kids, you got whatever, as long as you're a good human being and you're respectful and I have fun talking to you, and you're not like hiding kids under your floorboards or anything, or you're not doing whatever, you're not sacrificing your neighbor's animals or whatever.
Exactly. It's simple, right? It's very
you're contributing to society. You're working and you're doing whatever, and and you like poetry, or do whatever, it's just
right.
The world is big enough for everybody, everybody. And you can't be afraid to allow everybody in. You can't be afraid to have the people you're uncomfortable with. That's one thing I struggle with still to this day, because I'm an introvert to begin with, but when I do certain things or certain activities, I change. Like I become a different.
Oh.
I'm the same person, but I'm able to function in a different way that I'm not normally used to. And one of the things that I'm uncomfortable with is being in big crowds, because I'm very empathetic. I can sense what people kind of are feeling, and and kind of how the vibe's going. And so a lot of times, if it gets overwhelming to me. Like I feel like I don't want to know all this. I don't want to feel all this. I don't, but in a setting like this, it's a little easier to do because I don't have somebody like right here or a bunch of people in the room, partying or doing whatever. But there's room for all of us. Excuse me. The media doesn't want you to think that, but there's room for all of us. There's plenty of room for every theory, every person, every concept, what. I've had a crisis of faith over the last couple weeks, and I'm going to be honest.
Oh, yeah.
I have these ebbs and flows. I think everybody that really has strong faith has these ebbs and flows, has these ups and downs.
Right.
And like because I'm such a digger, I keep finding things that make sense to me, like that have a lot of evidence to back it up, like where people aren't just talking out of their butt. That makes me rethink some of the things that I've recently come to believe.
Right.
My relationship with God has not changed and will never change.
Right.
But some of the things that I've learned, from the past and currently about Christianity and other religions leads me to second guess some things and combine some things and rethink some things. But at the core, my belief, my relationship is still the same. My personal spiritual relationship with our Father is still the same. And because I'm always asking for guidance, and I don't think that he would lead me astray when it comes, because I'm always asking for knowledge, always asking for clarification, always asking, show me something to ease my whatever it is. Or so there's just a lot of things in the last couple of weeks I found that I've kept under wraps because a lot of people, I think, would just not be willing to hear it. Like it would fundamentally alter their, they would just put up a wall right away, and it would automatically be a reaction like, nope, click, let's go to a different channel, let's do whatever, I'm not listening to this kook anymore or whatever. And that's fine. I to the point in my life where I don't care.
That's
like
right.
I'm so happy with who I am right now, and anything somebody says is not going to deflate me. It's not going to deter me. It's not going to change who I am. I'm not trying to change who you are either. Anybody in the chat or anybody that would watch us, that is not, you should know that by now. That is not our intention. It is, but I just come across some things that have really shook me and really made me go back to the person I was, questioning certain things, because there's a lot of things to me that didn't make sense before that are being highlighted. It's like God showing me, you need to look at this because you're never going to get it out of your system unless you look at it, kind of thing.
Right.
And but it is very, oh gosh, it's some of it's even hard for me to take, but the evidence is there for whatever they're putting forth. And so I'm still digesting that evidence and that, what's been presented, and trying to find other sources of the same, that might be saying the same thing. And that's the thing. If I can find three separate sources, doesn't matter what time period, that kind of say the same thing, but maybe in a little different way, or lead down the same path, I really do pay attention to it. And I really do, I take it seriously. You know, I'm not going to necessarily change my philosophy on life or change my whatever, but I am definitely going to put more credence on somebody that's spent the time to do the digging and do the research and, you know, put their own career or their own friendships in jeopardy to present the information they present and that kind of stuff. So I know that was a weird kind of a rant, but I'm just telling you where my head's at right now. And
that's good.
But that's one of the reasons why I love this show, and I love especially the people in your chat atmosphere. So open to things, and they're just such great people, and the people in this chat atmosphere are great as well.
Yes, absolutely. We're really blessed to have great people. You know, it's really, I see people, they may disagree in the chat, but it doesn't become a fight where anybody is insulting anyone, and they just have fun and they answer questions, and they, like I said, disagree in a loving way. And if people are honest, which most of us are very honest about, we want to know things, we want to know the truth, and the journey sometimes to the truth through our own, you know, processes, like the researching, and like you do, you ask God to give you the wisdom, and he offers it generously. And it may be a process to get to it. It's not always the answers dropping right down. It's a learning journey for us. But we know when we arrive at truth, we know when we arrive, and sometimes it's a bumpy ride, right? As they say.
truth is a painful barrier sometimes. It's I mean, 20 years ago, I wouldn't even be talking like this. I would just, whatever I had accepted at that time was it. I wouldn't even, it wouldn't be, you know, we wouldn't be having this conversation. And Tina Truth Seeker, yes, I agree. She says, I'm open to hearing it. I've had to challenge all my beliefs. This is your channel, so speak your mind. Thank you very much, Tina.
I love it. Tina is very, like, Tina and I, we have like very similar beliefs. I have picked up on. I believe she and I have had similar like journey in terms of Christianity and things, and you know, just the process of learning the history hasn't been true kind of thing, and coming to this kind of
I think Karen Scott's in that boat too.
Yeah, it's like 1,000 years have been what did they do? So what does that do to our timeline? But I can tell that she's also open to hearing about the aliens and the people that love the aliens. It's like, bring the alien talk on. I'm okay with talking about it. But, you know, we can do it. We can talk about it.
Becky says, our personal relationship with God is what really matters. But I hear what you're saying, John, and it's good to question things. Yeah. Yes. Excuse me. The only reason that I'm saying this today is because obviously Christianity focuses around a singular figure, you know, otherwise it wouldn't be Christianity. And this is how my brain works. And it's not necessarily how I talk to people, but this is how my brain works. Just so you guys know, in the background, this is how my brain works. You know, having grown up in a very religious family, but being an atheist as a kid, or agnostic, whatever you want to call it. I was one of those kids that questioned everything. I was, as my mom would say, I was too smart for my britches. I was constantly, didn't matter what it was. Could be her cooking dinner. It could be the TV, it could be the car, it could be the whatever. I was always questioning how things worked, how they were put together. Like when my parents were gone one day, you remember Curtis Mathis? That was a brand, like a big brand of TV. Curtis Mathis, we had his console TV.
It sounds vaguely.
It was like if you had a Curtis Mathis console, you know, television, it's like you were doing good in the neighborhood. You know, like you like.
Oh, okay. It was like a top level brand.
Yeah, it was like, you know, it was like wooden case, it's like a console stereo sort of, but the TV was in the middle, so it had like the speakers on the sides.
Oh, yeah.
Still
Okay.
didn't have a remote. You had to physically get up and turn the knob to change the
Right.
channel.
Oh, yeah. I
So
remember
you got
that
to
one.
like shows pretty quick because you didn't want to keep getting up and changing channels.
That's right. And you had to
But
watch commercials, remember?
that's right.
Couldn't skip through them.
So they were gone for a few hours, and
Mhm.
it's also the first time I almost killed myself. Um,
Oh, no.
I took the TV apart while they were gone to see what was inside of it, to see how it functioned, to see, I also,
Mhm.
that was the first time I learned about capacitors and transformers, because even though
Oh,
the TV was unplugged, the capacitor held a charge that I released, and it knocked me back on the floor, unconscious for
oh,
like a few seconds. And
really? Oh, wow.
so that's what I learned about capacitors.
Oh, what a
Like
way to
Back to the
learn,
Future, when
right?
Michael J. Fox he played his little guitar, that the big amplifier, and they blew him backwards. That's kind of how I felt, just. But I was the kind of kid, I would stick the keys in the outlets to see what it would do, you know. And at our house at that time, it blew the fuse, so all the lights went out,
Oh, yeah. That's what it
and there was a
does.
nice big brown or black patch on the outlet, so I couldn't get away with my dad not seeing it. So anyway, but that's the kind of kid I was. So when it came to religion in general,
That's so funny.
because Christianity is all I knew, because that's, hey Joseph, how you doing?
Hey, Joseph, welcome. Welcome. Look at that. I'm just
Um,
getting a picture of you doing that. I'm sorry for laughing.
I was like,
Not funny. It's not funny, but I just pictured. Oh my
I'm
gosh! Like,
amazed that I'm still alive. I really am, because I've done so much stuff. Like the whole thing, why do women live longer than men? Like all those memes and stuff like that, and all those commercials, like
right.
you got the guys jumping on flamethrowers and all this other crap and whatever. But I was like Jackass before Jackass was popular, I guess. But I wanted to know how things worked. I wanted, why? I was always that kid that was like, why? The annoying kid in the back of the car on the trip to West Virginia. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Except instead of "Are we there yet?" why is that sign green? How come that one's yellow? Like I was constantly questioning stuff. Why is the car making that sound?
Right.
Why? Just so. And as we've gotten, fast forward to now into the last few years, where a lot more people are questioning things, even myself, like more people are becoming what I would call diggers now. A lot of like this whole great awakening is causing people to seek truth, to seek revelation. And one of the things that I had a hard time with, and still have a hard time with, is the Catholic Church. Not the people in the Catholic Church per se. I don't want to get anybody get mad because they're Catholic and they go to Catholic Church, or St. Peter's or St. Paul's or whatever, St. Mary's. I have nothing against the people in the church.
Right.
It's the institution. You have to remember that the New Testament was given to us by the Catholic Church. And we know now that the Catholic Church was all about power and control, and all about narratives. And so I always had a hard time balancing my belief now, and that, okay, well, did this final product that the Catholic Church gave us, is that really the truth? Is that the reality? Or is there more to it? Because one of the things that I had a hard time with, and sorry guys, this was not even remotely what I had planned to
That's
talk about today,
okay. It has to flow how you want it to flow. It's good.
but I feel like I need to get this off of my chest.
Yeah, it's important.
So there's a lot of people that say this, and it kind of annoys me, not because of the person, again, because they were put in that spot because of their upbringing or their whatever you want to call it. And again, this goes back to human nature. Humans want to be good people. They want to believe that they're not being lied to. They want to believe that you're not going to lead them astray. You're not going to falsify something, or give them false witness or false evidence.
Mhm.
And but I hear a lot of people say this, even in like the closer circle of people that I consider friends.
Mhm.
I hear um, like they'll hold up the Bible and they'll just like hold it in front of the camera, or they'll hold it in front of your face. This is the word of God. I don't disagree with that. But
Mhm.
how I don't believe that's the only word of God, I guess, is my
Oh, okay.
problem with it. It's like,
Mhm.
okay, so what you're telling me is the infinite being, our Father God, just decided, okay, only in this time period is when I'm going to inspire people to write about me and to give prophetic visions and witness. And it seems so like this little sliver, teeny little sliver in history is the only time I'm going to make an appearance in people's lives, and I'm going to inspire you to write during that period, or have events during that period that will inspire other people to write about it. I have a hard time with that idea that nothing happened before that, for the thousands of years before that, and since then. Like, it's just odd to me. It's hard for my brain to wrap around, and that's one of the things I still struggle with. And
Yeah.
I, again, not saying that the Bible is not the word of God. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I don't believe that's the only word of God.
Mhm.
And so, with that being said,
Mhm.
I had a point. I don't remember where I was going with it, but some of the things I've come across recently tie in with that. And that God's been talking to people forever. Since there's been writing, God has been talking
Yeah.
to people, and they've been so inspired to write down their experiences, or um, whether it's verbally, writing it down, whatever, passing it on. And since then, I've come across a lot of evidence of well, think about this. The Catholic Church says that the Bible is divinely inspired. The books that were picked for the Bible were divinely inspired. When in reality, it was a group of guys, drunken guys, that got together and decided these are the books that are going to make up the New Testament. This is what we're sticking with.
Mhm.
And I don't know exactly how many books there are. I know there's a lot more, and I know there's a lot more yet than what we know of. So when you have the hand of man involved in making that decision for a divine being, um, and again, I go back to the Catholic Church, and again, I'm not talking about the people in the Catholic Church. I'm not talking about Catholics themselves. I'm talking about the early Catholic Church, uh, the Vatican, the seat of power for Western civilization,
Right.
was all about control, and was all about narratives, and was all about, if it was something that was divinely inspired, and you wouldn't have needed to slaughter as many people as you did in all these different lands, because they did not believe what you believed in.
Yeah.
And you felt that you needed, like the Spanish were big proponents of this. Like, they would go into, like, in South America, they just slaughtered
Yeah.
a lot of people just because they weren't Christian, and they
Right.
didn't fall into their
Mhm.
lane, or stay in their lane, or whatever.
Right.
So there's just something with the Catholic Church, and something with the Vatican, something with that whole, uh, there's something not right, and I can't put my finger on it, but I'm being shown things that are leading me down paths that are kind of opening up my eyes about some early church processes, and some early church. Um, the only way I can equate it is like what we're experiencing with Klaus Schwab and all his New World Order buddies. It's
Gotcha.
almost the same kind of group at that time,
Mhm.
pushing this narrative or pushing. I'm not saying Christianity is a narrative. I'm just saying that their power or their lust for power and control was the narrative.
Right.
And they needed a vehicle. They needed a vehicle to help that agenda. They It just happened to be the New Testament. And because I'm just, again, if you guys are joining us late, just talking about my crisis of faith over the last couple of weeks and the ebbs and flows of anybody that is truly a faithful person, that's a spiritual person. You have these ebbs and flows, these ups and downs. At least I do. I'm not going to speak for everybody.
No, you're speaking for people. I think it's great you're being honest like that. Welcome, Sean is here. But you're being courageous to share this. A lot of people, like you said, they don't want to share when they start having the crisis of faith because they don't want to offend people and lose their membership in whatever group. Right. But we've already lost our membership.
That's what I was going to say. I don't know if I even had a membership to begin with, but
yes, exactly.
I think it's the vulnerability because of and I have to say, God's put a lot of amazing people in my life over the last couple of years, and you're included, obviously, in that group.
Oh, thank you.
So I always am concerned when I talk or say things like this because I'm thinking, I'm just going to lose more people, or I'm just going to piss more people off, or I'm just going to be on an island by myself, kind of thing, with my own thoughts and my own whatever. And
no. Not at all. I think, you're speaking for people that are having similar, you're going to find people that resonate, with where you are, because I'm going on. I'm not calling it so much a crisis of faith as it is. It's just more of the unveiling and the, like, oh, okay. It's
yes.
like being on the roller coaster. It's like, oh, we're going up another hill. We're climbing. Woo! It's like, okay, another thing that is something I need to put on the table to reevaluate. And I've just gotten comfortable with being uncomfortable. Okay. So
I think that's where I'm at right now. I think because of all the revelation over the last few years, where I think I've got a beat on something and then something pops up and it changes. And so I get into that up and down. I think this is me reaching out and saying, okay, I'm to the point where I hope you guys accept me for the way I am and just who I am. And that way it's going to eliminate my ups and downs, because then I could just focus on the research and the things that just fall in my lap. And let's see, got to see what the wife says. Hold on. Let's see.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's scary for people to go against the grain for anything that's widely accepted as the way, because it's all they've ever known doesn't mean it's right.
Yeah, that's true, Julie. And we've been with people that, like I said, a couple of days ago on a live stream, there was a man, I think his name was John. He's like new to the Chatmosphere, really nice guy. And he was the one that was proposing. Remember, everybody? He was like, I'm starting to think maybe Trump is the Antichrist. And we were like, kind of like clutch our pearls, like, what? But I was like, he needs to just say why he's saying this. I don't think it's a big deal to have somebody think that, because if anybody's being honest, come on, it has crossed your mind, hasn't it? Because you're like, when we used to do pin the tail on the Antichrist, remember, we were like, it's Obama. It's definitely Obama. Oh, no, it's George Bush. No, it's Reagan. No, it's Jimmy Carter. It was everybody up to. So why not consider that Trump could be the whatever Antichrist? Or now that Prince whatever William is the King of England, I'm sure everybody's like, okay, let's pin the tail on him. He's the Antichrist, right? No, it's supposed to be Juan Carlos of Spain. Whatever happened to Juan Carlos of Spain? See, I used to watch Jack Vanapee and Rick Zella. They were always scaring the heck out of us about the Antichrist coming. And, then I was listening to Hal Lindsey and the guys that wrote the Rapture whole series
Yeah.
of rapture things. Tim LaHaye, right? So because a lot of us that were Christian, we were in the Christianity.
Lady
Christian,
Knievel, Chucky is king.
Chucky, yeah, okay, you thought Chucky was king. Yeah, I mean, we're all like, we're being, like you said, tossed about. Okay, this guy now, and the guy was just saying, wouldn't it be perfect that it seems like he's saving us, he's an outsider, but yet is he tricking us, and maybe we're just lining up to be,
Well,
cattle or something. But
if
you know
you
what? It's okay to talk about that. It's okay to just
yes,
let somebody express why he has this sort of thought going on. It's not going to shake if you like Trump and you feel that he is maybe whatever. A lot of people feel that he's a Christ figure. He's the king. A lot of people have different things that they believe. I believe we can all have these beliefs and we can still lock arms to want our country to
yes,
come out of the hands of the devil. Okay, so we're going to have so many different characters and figures that they're going to rise to prominence, and I don't know, maybe they're not going to be whatever, maybe they are going to be whatever, but the bottom line is we're not supposed to have an idol. Like a lot of
yes.
people need to check themselves, like, am I doing any idol worship, you know and if we have to just make sure we're not what can happen is once you take down idols in your life, you can allow other idols to rise. So we don't want to replace idols. If we have started to, like, I've begun that process of just getting rid of idolatry, whatever it is. It's all kinds of things. Some people idolize their children. Their children are little gods in their lives. So anybody can be an idol, anything can be an idol. So let's just, give each other that grace and understanding that we should be able to talk about it at least. Like, I don't ever want to be in an echo chamber of just, oh, we all think, because that's like a cult. Why do you want to be around people that just spew the same thing that you think? I want to hear a diversity of thought.
You said
And
something very important.
mhm,
And this is I kind of live by this. A lot of people say a lot of nice things, a lot of good things. They promise a lot of things and they make people feel good.
mhm,
But you have to look at their actions. Like their actions always betray them, whether it's good or bad. So
right.
if they're walking the walk and talking the talk and their actions mimic that or they parallel that, then
Mhm.
they're being true to themselves. Whether you like them or not, they're still being true to themselves. And if you look at it through the lens of this whole, because we know this is all a psyop, this is all uh, World War III is literally the most unconventional war we've ever had. It is a psychological war. And if you look at it through that lens,
Mhm.
that dude could have a valid point, about the whole antichrist thing or the whole whatever. And people throw that term antichrist around pretty loosely,
Yeah.
but a bad person in their life or a bad influence, we'll just say that instead of antichrist.
Mhm.
And they're using the word antichrist as like a person, where
Right.
it's an antichrist personality or an antichrist spirit or an antichrist, like the person themselves. Like, I don't literally think and look at somebody and think that, oh my God, they're the antichrist or whatever it is.
Mhm.
Their actions may want me to think that,
Mhm.
but I think it's the spirit of antichrist, and I put the antichrist in quotes, the spirit of antichrist
Right. That's a
guiding
good
their
thing.
actions.
Yeah. Good designation, because see, this is great that you're bringing this up, because a lot of us are probably on the same similar journey about the things that are starting to be, considered. And see, the whole aspect of the Antichrist, you have some schools of thought that feel that there are many antichrists, and it even says it in the scripture, many antichrists will rise. So if that says that many antichrists, but there will be one man of sin, I know the man, of lawlessness and things like that, that will rise. But we don't even know what timeline we're on. So a lot of us think we got it all figured out. We're like, oh yeah, it's going to happen.
Yeah, we don't have the wheels on the wagon yet.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's a humbling thing because I'll speak for me. I follow behind a lot of Christian teachers and gurus, and they've said things and they predicted dates. And you know what? The time has come and passed, and their predictions have not come true. And that has left a lot of people very disappointed. And it affects your faith because you're depending on it, and you're literally reading the scriptures according to what they have interpreted the scriptures to mean. But if you use logic in terms of where we are now, it's like, yeah, oh gosh, it's like the timeline. If we are now looking at a possibility of 1,000 years being either inserted or hidden or something, then if the 1,000 years are like missing, it's like a bank account. You got $1,000 missing. You're not going to just say, it's nothing.
Right.
Let me go back to sleep. I'm sure it was nothing at all. No, you're going to say, wait a minute. Let me take an accounting. And why did the $1,000 like just disappear from my bank account? Right. Thank you very much, California tax franchise board. You actually did that to me. Yes. You put
if you don't know, Jennifer got raped by the tax department out there.
Triggered. Yeah, they just took it out of my Wells Fargo account. Just zoop, 1,000 like. So
we think you owe this money. We're not going to tell you we're taking it out.
Yeah, I would not just let that pass by, right? So we have 1,000 years unaccounted for, right? And we've been told we had the Middle Ages, the early ages, the Middle Ages, the Renaissance. Now, the Middle Ages is a whole aspect of what is the Middle Ages. Like, they've just made stuff up. It doesn't make sense. Middle Ages? Are you serious? So we got the 1800s. I call it a person of interest. And if that is the case, how can any person that studied the Bible be 100% so confident that they understand the end times and how it's all supposed to unfold? If we've been lied to about the calendars, we're on the wrong calendar. You got the Ethiopians over here on a whole different calendar. So
if you read,
they have scriptures that they fought against the Vatican. Okay, if you want to know, Ethiopia is one of the only countries that has never been colonized in so-called Africa. And Africa is also not even a thing. It's not even like, this is all made up. Africa, I mean, we don't even know what the map looks like of the world realm. But Ethiopia is a very different place, okay? And I think Ethiopia stands alone. I don't believe that it's part of this whatever contingency of called Africa. It's something very different about Ethiopia. So Ethiopia, Italy tried to invade Ethiopia. You know about this? They tried many times. The Ethiopians have fought back in a way like the king and the queen actually got out on the battlefield, okay? The king Menelik and his wife, okay, Queen Taye, can you imagine you and Julie getting out on the battlefield on some horses because some invaders are coming? Okay,
I can't. I don't know about Julie, but I can.
I got your back, honey. So they were out on the battlefield fighting for Ethiopia. These are stories a lot of people don't know about, but the Ethiopians have fought back the Vatican. Okay, think about that. Rome, Italy. So if they were able to fight and not be colonized and have scripture that was not part of whatever they did back there at when they got together and did the whatevers to the Bible, right? The Council of Nicaea and all this stuff. So Ethiopia remained in a protected bubble in a sense. So if that's the case, and Ethiopia is on a different calendar than us, so we got some splaining to do.
That's funny. You gave me another perfect. Jennifer's so good at giving me segues. I got to tell you.
No, you are. You
Since
got
we're
some
talking,
splaining to do.
you got some splaining to do, Louise. What had happened was
we had gone to the Council of Nicaea, and yeah, we need to get the Book of Enoch. Okay.
Yeah, we went up in there. We went up in there, and they were talking all crazy and everything, and they were drinking, and we had the Book of Enoch, and we like, what about this book? And they're like, get out of here with that shit. Get out of here with that. We don't want people knowing any truth.
Queen Victoria, she totally killed the king. She sent people to go assassinate the king on the battlefield. And they were like, oh, it was suicide. Oh, it's like, you think Hillary Clinton just made this stuff up and just came up? No, Queen Victoria literally killed the monarchy in Ethiopia. I'm the only one always asking about what happened to the prince. Is this Victoria's Secret? Is she trolling us?
You just gave me another segue to something I have for tonight too. Damn. So, hey, Karen.
Hey, Karen. Oh my God,
Karen. There's not room in the front of the class, Karen. Just so you know, unless you got some smokes with you, but we'll let you up front. But anyway,
Michelle, look at that. Michelle says the Apocrypha is additional books that were in the Geneva Bible,
yes.
Council of Nicaea removed a lot. Thank you. Whoa.
Yes.
Hey, Karen. Oh, yeah. Oh,
so we're going to talk about Vatican first. Mm-hmm. And then I'm going to show you that, and this is documented, I'm going to show you that the lineage of the Queen of England, Queen Elizabeth II, I think she's the second.
Yeah, they say.
She is a direct descendant of Mohammed.
Whoa, are you kidding me?
I'm not kidding you. That was one of the other things I found recently.
No.
So anyway, let's start with the Vatican, since we're on this, and it just happens to tie in it. So I can at least take what we're talking about and tie it into the show now. Why is the Vatican named after Vatica, the goddess of the underworld? The Vatican is a symbol of Christianity. We are today so used to the name that we hardly think about how the Vatican got its name. The truth is that the name Vatican is neither Latin nor Greek, and it cannot be traced to the Bible either. The word we associate with the church is closely linked to the Etruscan, or I think that's how you pronounce it, Etruscan goddess Vatica. Etruscan literatures and mythology have been lost, but we know that the guardian of this necropolis was the Etruscan goddess Vatica, sometimes spelled Vatica without a K, with a C. She was the goddess of the underworld. And here's a better picture of Vatica. Goat horns look familiar?
Boy, you got some explaining to do, Vatican. Why is Vatica up here? She doesn't look like someone that we would like to deal with, right?
But if you notice, we always talk about symbolism will be their downfall. I'm pretty sure you guys are awake enough in the chat. I'm 99% sure you are, to have seen all the imagery in the Vatican.
Yes.
Like what they claim is the crucifixion of Christ, where the Pope sits, that gigantic piece of art that takes up that entire room, where it looks like hell has opened up, and all these spirits and all these demons are trying to pull this person down into the pit, kind of. And this is the Vatican. There's way more than that. This is just the one that's out literally out in the public. Like, you can literally walk into this room. Like, here you go. This is the Catholic Church. This is Christianity. But you notice, like, Vatica has this symbol, this diamond symbol on the forehead, which I would equate to like the all-seeing eye or third eye, or whatever, because they seem to use that a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure what nationality this is. It says Etruscan. I'd have to look into that a little bit more. But you've got obviously goat horns, or some horns, ears that look like goat ears. and it looks like a helmet or like a hat
Mhm.
because her normal ears are here, and then you've
Right.
got
Oh,
these.
I see.
So it looks like it's a headdress of some kind, like whatever it is,
Yeah, yeah.
and it has very much Asian features, like with this, kind
Mhm.
of the narrow eyes and that kind of stuff.
Right, right.
So I just found that interesting that
Mhm.
that this popped up over the last couple days, and
Yeah, that is interesting. And I'm learning that they have used words like Etruscan and this one and that one. Oh, they're the this people. That it's all the same people. We're talking about a lot of the same people. It doesn't make sense that you have all these groups. Oh, they're the this person. They're all in the same. Look, they were all in the Mediterranean at the same time, and you're going to tell me that's what didn't make sense to me. I was like, okay, so wait a minute, these people, the Phoenicians, are on the world scene with the Greeks and the Etruscans and the this one, and they're all seafaring people. And you're
Mhm.
telling me that all these ports in the Mediterranean all were separate people and they're all doing seafaring at the same time? They're all the same people and they're all under the same banner, I believe. They went out to do these things under the Spanish flag, and they went out under the Vatican. And
Mhm.
I have some Catholic friends that have remained friends with me, and I've talked a lot of trash about the Pope, and they're still my friends. But then I've been unfriended by a lot of people. I don't talk a lot of trash, like just like talk about the Pope. Like one day I just showed a picture of the Pope kissing a little boy on the
Yeah.
podium stage, and it was that little boy. He was like on Oprah. Remember the kid who had cancer or something?
Yes.
And
Mhm.
the Pope was like kissing the kid, like in the mouth. And I didn't have any commentary. And that's hard for me. I just
Mhm.
showed the picture because it was so disturbing. I was like, I don't need to add words to this picture. And it was amazing to see people defend. They went, Ree, just for me showing the Pope. I swear to you, I put no commentary. And they came at me, and I was like, whoa, okay. I didn't even put my opinion, and you're mad at me. I'm just showing the picture. And they were like, how dare you? How dare you, Jennifer? And I was like, what did I do? I'm just showing. What? You're not mad at him kissing this boy in the mouth, but you're mad at me for showing the picture? Like, what are we mad about right now? I'm confused. And the fact that they could be so triggered over me just showing a picture, it shows me that something's not right here. Something is way off. Because I don't think I've ever had a moment where, if I even had a pastor I love so much, if somebody says something about, I'm not going to go cuckoo. I'm just going to, okay, well, that's what you think, but I like him, okay? That's all you have to say. I like the Pope, okay? You could say that, but I like him. And they were trying to say, this is what I really, this is where we're going to have the rubber has to meet the road, okay? Because we're
Mhm.
dealing with this issue right now, okay? This person, or people, actually, I had a few people, they were angry about these pictures. And a lot of you truthers, as they call us, you've seen the pictures of the Pope kissing the kid in the mouth. And the person told me, listen to the gaslighting. Jennifer, how could you make something so beautiful so ugly? And you're assuming something where this was a beautiful act. This little boy was receiving a blessing from the Pope, and it was very innocent. And how could you make it dirty? And I was like, whoa. So I'm the bad person right now, okay,
Mhm.
in this scenario. And this is going on currently right now with a comedian who made videos of a little boy, 7 years old. And there are possibly 16 videos. And people are telling everybody, you need to calm down. You guys are you're overreacting right now. And I'm like, are we?
Oh,
So the
they're trying to
gaslighting,
normalize it.
and they make you feel like you're crazy because they use all their wordsmiths start coming out and saying, you know what someone had the nerve to say about this current thing with Tiffany Haddish? They said, well, you people with kids, you're overly protective of your children, and that is putting your children in harm's way because you're not allowing them to live and experience the world and learn. You're overprotecting them, and you're actually making them more prone to being abused by a pedo. Can you imagine they literally turned the concern of the people into you're actually
Yes.
the people that are making this a dirty, you're the ones with the sick mind.
The
It's like,
person exposing the problem is now the problem.
wow. And I noticed another thing, and you all can let me know when these issues of child and all this stuff, pedo thing, if it's a little boy that's involved in it, it's not as much sympathy. If it's a little girl, then there's outrage. And I want to know, why is that little boys are not as protected? You know,
Well, here's the
I'm
thing
just
too. You hit on something that's important for people to understand because of social media and everything. You can see it in real time now how they're doing it. It's because all these pedophiles are being exposed from Podesta to all the way down the line.
Mhm.
They don't want their buddies being like, they
Yep.
don't want their practice being exposed. So
Yeah.
you look at all the mainstream narrative puppets. They're all coming out, and I'm going to use expert in quotes because they always have experts.
Right.
Well, now you have these woke psychologists coming out, and these people of authority coming out and saying, well, I think we want to move away from calling these people pedophiles. It's their minor attracted persons. So now you're using this map, minor attracted person, because it sounds better than pedophile. Oh, it's cute to be attracted. It's okay to be attracted to a young person. You're just a minor attracted person. It's no different than being attracted to a woman or a man or whatever. Yeah, it is. Yes, it is.
Like, wow.
That's why they wanted to get rid of the term groomer, because it implies the same thing.
Exactly.
It's like, what do you? I mean, every one of their media puppet outlets, YouTube included, immediately went on the defensive for these guys. And so anybody that said the word groomer was immediately banned. Like, you can't, it's hate speech. You cannot say it.
And
again, because it's attacking their lifestyle. You can't say it.
That's horrible. Like, hey, the guru is here. Look at that. My brother Drew came into the chat. The guru 215. Look, I love it. Welcome. Yeah, and also, John, another thing about what they do with that whole, getting rid of the people that say anything, I believe that the disclosure is happening at a rate that they can't keep up with it. So they were they are losing the narrative so badly. They did not want the people to show their outrage at this current one with Tiffany Haddish I'm bringing up. They can't keep ahead of the narrative because, see, the community is not going to accept this. This is a deal breaker, and there's no amount of anybody anymore. Nobody has influence like that anymore.
They just arrested another 160 people in Disney alone last week. Disney alone, 160 people for being pedophiles and traffickers. Seriously.
And you know what's happening, John and chat, and I've been talking about this on the live stream, is the thing about what's going to get a lot of these rings of pedos is that they are going to be taken into groups, into prison and things to do time. It's because of the RICO Act. The RICO Act is going to get them, because if they're involved in this stuff and they've traded this stuff, all this information is in the cloud now. It's no way to hide. They wanted us to have surveillance, but it's backfired. It's surveillance on them. They have laptops. A lot of them are like boomers. They don't even know how to really do the technology. They don't even understand it. And they're getting caught up. I mean, you look at the guy who was the friend of Epstein. Remember Jean, whatever, the French guy that he
Yes,
hung himself in the prison.
just
So
recently.
yeah, he was a French modeling. He owned a modeling agency or something. So
Hmm.
he would go all around traveling, and that's where he was recruiting and getting the children, you know, as models. And what he was doing, everyone, and this is what I want us to really think about, is everywhere he went, all over, he would be flying private and he would go to restaurants whenever he landed in all these places. And you know what he would do? He would have his phone and what? He would check in. You know, everybody
Yep.
wants to show off where they are. Oh, I'm on the French Riviera. Oh, I'm at this restaurant. Oh, let me check in. So, guess what? That causes a data shadow to show everywhere they were. It pinpoints it.
Hmm.
It has pictures. It shows what restaurant. It's an absolute picture of everything down to the minute. And these people have been here just showing off. This right here was the best thing to ever happen. Okay?
See you,
This right
Sean.
here. As annoying as these devices are, yeah, you hear me, Siri. Yes. This is what got them caught. That's why they wanted to use Blackberries. Remember they wanted to use Blackberries only?
Yes, yes. Google, the Android phones are the worst because they literally, unless you turn it off, and most people don't know how to turn it off, it tracks every step you take, everywhere you go, the time you were there, how long you were there. And the technology is available because Greg Phillips and True the Vote used it to catch the mules, and they're using it for other things. So you could actually, you could see who else was there along, you know, with them. And unless so, and people weren't smart enough then to think about burner phones. You know, they tried the Blackberries and stuff like that. But if it's connected to a satellite, it doesn't matter what kind of device it is, you're going to know where it's at somewhere in the world. You know, you're going to know where it's at. And, but yes, the whole long and short of it is the whole narrative's collapsing. Their whole empire is collapsing. Babylon is falling.
Yes.
And it's the death throes of the beast.
Yeah.
It's a caged animal clawing and kicking and screaming, and their own technology is being used against them. Their own platforms, like
Exactly.
the DARPA platform, Facebook, and you've got Twitter, and you got all these other platforms, Instagram, and you've got TikTok is the worst for anybody that uses TikTok. Because it actually it logs your keystrokes. So you could actually, whatever you're typing on your keyboard. So if you sign up for a TikTok account on your phone, you're giving them permission to access all of your devices, not just your phone. So if you're on an iPad or a computer or whatever, in their terms of, from what I understand, and this is why they call it the Chinese spyware app, because it actually key logs. So like if you're on your computer and you're typing in a password to your bank or whatever, that kind of stuff, it logs all your keystrokes. So it knows where you're going, knows what you're typing, knows what you're searching for, knows whatever. So these people are desperate, and it's gotten to the point where so much is happening at one time they can't control the narrative, and it looks ridiculous. Because it really does look like this can't be real, because they come right out and say it now. Like they have to. It's like they're grasping at some kind of foothold. It's like in the movies where somebody's like, you've got the good guy and the bad guy or whatever, and one just fell over the edge of the cliff and the other one's grabbed his arm or grabbed a hand or whatever, and there's that tense moment whether you don't know they're going to hold on or they're going to let him go or whatever. These people are the ones that are hanging over the cliff, and they're desperately trying to normalize their past behavior, trying to desperately normalize their good old boys club, all the activities, all the
Yep.
fun things they used to do. And I use fun in quotes, of course, to them. They're fun.
Right. Right.
So their world is collapsing, and they don't
Yep.
know what to do about it because they can't hide it anymore.
Nope.
Whereas before they could literally get away with it, you know, and just go on with their lives, and then talk to
they
their
had
little
an apparatus. Think about the protective apparatus of the media that they don't have anymore. They've lost the power of the media, and that's all Disney, right? The media tentacles are all Disney, you know, pretty much the propaganda that came out of Nazi Germany. So, you know, I want you all to also keep, even though we don't like this family, the Kardashian family, just treat it as a case study. Because currently, listen to this, we might see some perp walks of Kris Jenner and Kim Kardashian. I'm not kidding, everyone. This is an unfolding story that is so unexpected. It came right out like September 11th. It's like things are just happening. But there is a man named Ray J. He's the guy that was in the sex tape with Kim Kardashian, right? So it turns out that Kim Kardashian's mother told her to make this tape, if you can even imagine that. Kris Jenner told Kim to make the tape. Kris Jenner watched the tapes. It's 3 of them. She watched them. She rented a studio, they're saying, in Santa Barbara where they, you know, whatever they did to edit the tape. I don't know what you could do to edit the tape, but she rented a studio in Santa Barbara around that time, 20 whatever years ago, to edit the tapes and then broker a deal through, like, the porno companies have, you know, people that recruit and everything and write contracts. So they brokered a deal to make, they were making about $300,000 a month, they say, still to this day off of that tape, and it's 21 years later.
Yeah, ask Pamela and Tommy Lee about that.
That's amazing. But the thing that's disturbing that we're starting to see is that parents, and see, you have a mother here who sold her daughter. Basically, that's a form of human trafficking, because Kim is a daughter and that's a mother doing that to, that's so abusive on levels that are it's like Britney Spears. And this is showing, even though you might say, I don't like their music, I don't care about them, it's gossip. No, what we're seeing is in real time how one is going down, and it's going to attach to others. Because I'm telling you, I've been keeping my ear to the ground of these different things that are spinning, because this is a big case. It involves forging contracts, because Ray J said he never signed the contract. Kim forged his signature. Can you imagine that? We're dealing with, like, people are in big trouble. And he did, okay, this is what he did. Can you imagine this? He got so pissed off because Kris Jenner went on somebody's show and she acted like, oh, I never did this, so let me take a lie detector test. And she used a man who is known as a shady guy. He is a terrible lie detector analysis. She used him. And Ray J caught wind of this, and he has been taking it on the chin as being the one who leaked the tape as a revenge porn stunt. So he's been for 20 something years being, like, looked at in this way. It's affected him economically. And he's saying it even brought him to the point of suicidal ideation. Imagine everybody thinking you leaked this tape on this woman and she's crying all the time. Oh, I'm a victim. And they planned it the whole time, and they were able to monetize this tape into a multi-billion-dollar industry for the whole family. So this is so terrible, and it's going to reach levels, because now you really start saying, okay, so Kim Kardashian wanted to become a lawyer. I wonder why. It's because I'm thinking she sees that she's in trouble if any of this ever comes out, and she wants to get ahead of it. But you know what Ray J did? He took it upon himself. He's on vacation right now in the Dominican Republic. You know what this crazy man did? He went and had a live stream. He had a PowerPoint slide. Can you imagine? He had a PowerPoint slide of everything. He had receipt after receipt. He had text messages that looked like novels of Kim Kardashian. Let me tell you something. The black Twitter and the black social media, you don't want to be somebody that they are investigating. And you all know what I'm talking about. Black Twitter is like Scotland Yard, okay? When they get together and they are solving a mystery, they have already compared Kim Kardashian's signatures, her handwriting. They were like, oh no, Pete has a tattoo, and that's Kim's signature tattoo. So they matched the tattoo on Pete to the letters that Ray J has, and her signatures that she has even shown. She's shown her own handwriting on social media. They have matched her handwriting. This is going to be a huge case, people. I'm not kidding. And you're going to see a lot of connections, because not only is this family, like, they're horrible and just deplorable, but Britney Spears even factors into the Kardashians. You know why?
Yes. Yep.
Britney Spears had $600,000, I believe, missing out of her money. And you know what they did? They take money, they send it off to the Cayman Islands into these funds and things, or whatever they were doing. And then they funneled the money, they funneled it back into Kim Kardashian's bank account. So Kim took money that was Britney Spears' money. This is not good, everyone. It is all going to unravel. And all that they did to Britney Spears, because Kim Kardashian and those guys have the same management that kept Britney as a doggone prisoner in her own home. And if these people really cared about her, they would have spoken out about it. They knew what was happening to Britney Spears. No one cared, because you know why? There are so many secrets. They all hang out with Maria Abramovic. And, you know, this whole connection is about to a lot of people are going to be vindicated, in other words. A lot of people.
Yes, absolutely. Especially the Abramovic, how you pronounce her name, connection. She's connected to a lot of people, including Podesta. And a lot of that's going to come out here in the near future. There's just so much going on. I mean,
that's right. You don't have to keep up with it, Lady Knievel. I'll do it for you, okay?
That's right. That's what I was getting at. I saw that. She'll be on it. She'll have 20 shows next week about it. And
I'll keep you up to date, okay? Because I'm keeping my eyes on a few different things, because you know what it is? It ties in loose ends. Like, I might have researched something like a while back, and I'm like, wait a minute, the Kardashians did what? Okay, so it connects to this offshore. There were a couple of offshore accounts that when I was researching the Canadian, like the whole Justin Trudeau and all that, like there are these accounts, even with the Queen of England. There was an account called, remember the papers? They called the something papers. Do you know what I'm talking about? The Pentagon?
Yes. Yep.
The Panama Papers, I think. And then there was another fund that was in one, I guess they're all in the Cayman Islands or whatever. So the Queen of England was connected to some of these funds, and Trudeau and all these people. So that's why I was concerned about when I heard that Britney had all this money taken from her and the various players. I've been keeping up with, like I did an expose about Britney Spears last year. It got my channel in a lot of trouble. So I knew that it was something really to it, because I was connecting that she is a cousin of Marilyn Monroe. Britney Spears and Marilyn Monroe are cousins. And like, it was the people that are, you know, pulling the strings. I found a woman who looked like she was connected to China. Actually, she was like a big lawyer that was part of the whole like getting this whatever conservatorship. And every time I tried to look into this woman, I couldn't find anything on her. I kept hitting this like dead end, and I'm like, how can this woman be so important? She's a big lawyer, and I can't find an origin for this woman. They scrubbed it. So I'm telling you, the CCP has a lot to do with like Hollywood, and it's sad because like you're saying, you're very empathetic about like, it's hard for you to be out and watch things. Like it's hard for me to know these things have happened, and I want justice for Britney and for like all
Yes.
the kids from Disney, like Orlando Brown, like the things that have happened to this man when he was a little boy. And how about the Olsen twins? I mean,
Ugh.
look at them. That is not normal. And everybody likes, oh, they're billionaires, but look at them. They look like they're dead in the eyes.
Yeah.
They look like ghouls. They look like homeless women. And what? How?
Yeah, and Karen had a good point. She said, "How are these families so rich when these girls have no talent?"
Exactly. Like, it tells you a lot. Like some of them do have talent, but then, look at the ones that don't, and the protections that they're given, because the Kardashians, they gang stalk people. Like their enemies, they will send a group after them. They have lots of followers and things, and they will use their following to antagonize their enemies. And their enemies are not just enemies. These are people they stole intellectual property from. And these people are trying to get some remedy for them stealing their stuff. And they take the Kardashians to court, and it's like, you are fighting against a giant, you're like this little David fighting against them, and they win the cases and they make them go away because they know the judges, they know this person, and everybody is like in this spell. They said one, like during the Black China trial, the Kardashians had people that were from the court that wanted to take pictures with them. Can you imagine the court employees like, oh, let me get a selfie, Kim? It's like, and you're trying to win a case against them, and you see the court employees acting starstruck. It's ridiculous, people. So this family must be taken down, and it looks like Ray J is going to be the one to do it. And when you think about how apropos this is, Ray J is started with Ray J. They built a whole $1 billion industry off of Ray J, and now Ray J is coming to take them down. This is the most beautiful like drama. This is fabulous, and I'm keeping up with it for you, okay?
While you were talking, I'm trying to look because I have a picture. It must not be labeled, but I have like a group photo of Epstein and Ghislaine and the Queen, because Epstein and Ghislaine used to use the Queen's cottage. Like they would, she would let them use her cottage, and I had a picture of them sitting in the cottage.
I've seen it where she's sitting is she knitting in a rocking chair? It looks like a wooden wood cabin.
Something like that. There's a couple of them.
I saw that, her and Jeffrey Epstein. And another thing about the Queen and the aspect of Andrew, Prince Andrew, they call him Prince Andrew. He allowed Ghislaine and Kevin Spacey to sit on the thrones where only the king and queen are supposed to sit. And they took pictures, they have no reverence for this stuff. And they were taking pictures and sharing it on probably social media, Ghislaine and or Kevin Spacey. Can you imagine those two ghouls? And so the thrones have been, what do you call it? Like that's been a desecration, right?
Desecration or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, it should be desecrating if it's supposed to be a real royal family.
Yeah, I can't find the picture. Can't find the picture, but I keep finding all these other creepy pictures I'm not going to share on YouTube, like Lady Gaga and her Maria Abramovich spirit cooking pictures. But I do want to talk a little bit about, since I had it in the folder for today, since we're talking about a couple things obviously happened this week, and the timing of some of which I think are interesting. Like you had the new Prime Minister of England, what's her name, Truss or whatever her name is. And then the day after, you have the Queen visiting the pearly gates, and just a lot of interesting things happening in old England, the old land across the pond. And also you had the celebration or the remembrance of September 11th. And September 11th was one of those moments in history for me personally that hit me hard. When it happened, I will never forget. And you always see these every year. We will never forget. There's a lot of people that will never forget, but even people that weren't involved. If you were an American and it was just one of those moments in time. And as I've obviously got older and started learning more, a few more things, I started getting a little more pissed off about it, because there's a lot of things that leads to the conclusion that it was not foreign terrorists. And I'm going to do the Queen thing first, because I think this is an interesting take on what we were talking about earlier. So I can get that off of my chest and get that knot tied and moved on. So let's see here. I don't think I'm going to play the whole video. It's like 5 minutes long, but probably the first minute and a half or so, I want you guys to see this. I just think it's interesting. Because we were talking about it earlier, for those of you that weren't here earlier, but Karen, sorry, Karen, got to pick on somebody. So take a watch and take a listen to this. To me, it's again one of those things that I didn't know about. I never knew about until today.
According to a study by one of the top genealogical publishers of the world that has provided authoritative genealogical records of historical families for more than 190 years, Queen Elizabeth is a descendant of Islam's Prophet Muhammad, specifically his 43rd great-granddaughter. A release by United Press International dated October 10, 1986 says, Muslims in Buckingham Palace. Mixed in with Queen Elizabeth's blue blood is the blood of the Muslim prophet Muhammad, according to Burke's Peerage, the genealogical guide to royalty. The relation came out when Harold B. Brooks Baker, publishing director of Burke's, wrote Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher to ask for better security for the royal family. Quote, the royal family's direct descendant from the Prophet Muhammad cannot be relied upon to protect the royal family forever from Muslim terrorists, he said. Probably realizing the connection would be a surprise to many, he added, quote, it is little known by the British people that the blood of Muhammad flows in the veins of the Queen. However, all Muslim religious leaders are proud of this fact, end quote. Brooks Baker said the British royal family is descended from Muhammad through the Arab kings of Seville, who once ruled Spain. By marriage, their blood passed through to the European kings of Portugal and Castile, and through them to England's 15th century King Edward IV.
بتكتب فيه كتب من آل هاشم، من آل النبي، يعني هاشمي. ازاي طب أما الملكة ما طلعتش مسلمة ليه؟
Just want to make a comment. Joseph, you're absolutely right. This is Robert, I think Sepher, like Sepher. He is a brilliant researcher, and that's who I found this from. So good catch.
Wow.
You guys are awake over there on the Green Isle.
Yes, very. He is keeping them awake over there.
لأنه أصل الهاشمي ده ساب الإسلام.
It's something you might not expect to be written on a 9th century Viking ring, for Allah. The ring was discovered back in the late 1800s during excavations of a Viking trading center in Burka, Sweden, and they were able to clearly see that the ancient Arabic writing reads for Allah or to Allah. The researchers say that most likely we'll never know the exact meaning behind the inscription or where and why it was done, but that the ring definitely offers a link between the two civilizations long ago.
This image is said to be of actual hair from the beard of.
All right, that's what I'm stopping at because he talks about why a lot of people dye their beards red, and so.
Okay.
But that's not the part I want people to see. The
Mhm.
part I wanted to feature was that part, and even finding links to Norse and Viking cultures, like that ring that they found in the 1800s for Allah, with the inscription for Allah. So
Like Tina says, the 1800s again. Oh God.
yes, that's where I was going with this. A lot of things got there's just something about it. And
have we really figured out? Like, I know we're all researching together, but has anybody got a solid take on the 1800s? Like, what the F is going on in the 1800s? Please help me.
Yes, Joseph Robert Suffer on YouTube. Yes, absolutely.
Oh, okay.
And again, he's very good research. And that's one of the people I was talking about earlier who was one of the 3 sources I found that I trusted because I know he does his research. I know he goes to the nth degree before he presents something. So that's the only reason I showed that, because I know he's done his research. So I'm not going to talk about 9/11 because it hurts me still. All the stuff that I keep finding. Are any of you familiar with Rick Mayall?
No,
The British actor Rick Mayall.
I don't think.
I will mention this because Rick Mayall, he had a cryptic message right before he died, like very like not too long before. Rick Mayall's cryptic last message before he died suddenly, and it's always suddenly, with a lot of these people, it's always suddenly.
Yeah.
Following a sudden heart attack after a morning jog, he was 56 years old, which is my age. His funeral took place on 19th of June, 2014 at St. George's Church in Didisham, Devon. I crack on the British a lot, but I love the names of their towns and their cities and their roads and that stuff. They have just such cool names. Church in Didisham, Devon. Didisham. Are you going to Didisham today? Why no? I'm going to Yorkshire today.
For some figgy pudding, right?
For some tea and scrumpets. But listen, I'm going to play this clip. It's a very short clip. And then I'm going to play the last role that he ever had, the last character he ever played before he died. And so I'm going to play this clip. So listen very carefully. Again, we're talking about September 11th, 2001. So this wasn't that time, but listen to what he has to say and keep that in context to what we're going to talk about here. Yes, Karen. Karen's right on the ball. She says he was filming a movie and said basically don't comply. Yeah, absolutely. And we'll get to that. Jeez, wow. Karen, steal my thunder. Holy crap. You can move to the front of the class now.
Karen knows this stuff.
Man.
You fucking know. You don't know? No. Viewers, you don't know who the cameraman is. No. You don't know why you're being made to see these things. Nor do I. You're seeing me. I can't even see you. I may be dead by the time you watch this. Very possibly are. You don't know who's the man who's making things he wants you to see. Destroy your television sets now. You must listen to no orders. That's all I can tell you for this point of humanity. Believe me.
He clearly says, destroy your television sets.
Wow. That's
And
powerful. Yeah, I've never seen him in, like, you've seen him, John, in movies and stuff. You remember?
I know who he is. I don't know that I've actually watched anything.
Oh.
But people seem to forget about his connection to 9/11 because he talks about it in this clip I'm going to play here. He talks about it specifically. And he talks about something I've talked about and other people have talked about, that people keep seemingly, it gets pushed under the rug. So take a listen.
Come in.
I may end up forwarding this here. Hold on.
I'm going to deal you in, Dion.
No, thanks.
Come on. I'll be gentle with you.
How can you believe all that stuff?
Oh.
First of all, this woman that's sitting with them thinks they're both conspiracy theorists. Kind of what's happening to us right now. She's like somebody that's not red-pilled, not awake, but these two gentlemen are, especially Rick Mayall's character. But listen to what Rick Mayall has to say after, I don't know where it is exactly. It might be at about the 2-minute mark, but listen very carefully.
So we're going to talk about it, are we, Princess?
Yeah. Just don't get it. How can you both believe that crap? And you're like ridiculously intelligent. Why? Well, how can you believe it? Well, surely it's up there with JFK and Princess Diana. It's all conspiracy stuff.
And if you get me
That's
started,
what I mean. You sound like crazies, you really do. And not questioning everything like you told me. I'm questioning everything I know about you and how much I like you. That's really
shit.
just a bit. You're telling me that left is right and up is down, and I can't buy it.
Why?
Seriously?
I'm sure this will give me a copyright strike, but it's worth it.
Play building blocks with me.
What? Ernest?
Please, Dion. Just one game.
One game.
How did it fall?
How did it fall? Forwards.
Why?
Well, it's about balance. You take it out one side, the balance is off, it topples over, and gravity pulls it down.
Every time?
Yeah,
You certain?
yeah.
Now, when we play this, we pull out blocks from all over the structure because we don't want to be responsible for it falling over. Am I correct?
Yeah.
What happens if we only pull out blocks from one side?
Same thing.
Please demonstrate. So, they fall over.
Yeah.
Not down.
No. Ernest, what's your point?
With any kind of building blocks, when you pull out the blocks from the side, it falls over at that point. Well, then explain to me how, when an aeroplane was flown into one of the Twin Towers on September the 11th, that building collapsed in on itself.
What about the other tower? Scientifically, mathematically, or blockily, those buildings should have fallen over, not inwards. I mean, I'll concede to the idea that by some sort of miracle, one of those towers could have collapsed in on itself. But both of them? I'm afraid I doubted that the moment I watched it happen live. It is inconceivable that those planes brought those buildings down.
But watch a controlled demolition. It looks the same.
If a picture says 1,000 words, then our eyes can see 1,000 lies. See it to believe it.
Who would? How? Who would do that? Why would they?
Fear.
9/11, like 7/7, was pure theatre. Nothing more.
September the 11th, 2001 was a ruse, a show, a charade that even a child could identify.
Bullshit. No fucking way. No way.
Dion, you need to understand.
Not from us, she doesn't. She's got to do it herself.
Pardon?
She's got to do it herself. She's got to look, research, make an educated judgment. We can't do that for her.
That's true.
And that's the crux of learning in the Great Awakening is doing it, because simply telling somebody about something and wanting them to believe it, there's a chance that they will, but they have to experience the revelation for themselves. And if you listen to what he says, I don't know exactly what movie this was from or what show this was from, but it's something people, for whatever reason, they're so focused on, like Building 7 and other things. And he the point he makes is, and that's why he used the Jenga tower.
Yeah.
When you destabilize one side of a tall object, it's going to lose balance. It's going to fall over from that point upwards, not from that point downwards. So like where supposedly those planes impacted the towers, that the upper part of the structure should have fallen outward, should have fallen over, not fallen in on itself straight down.
Exactly. Wow.
And then and then like in his statement, he goes, okay, I'll give you that, maybe like a stroke of luck or a miracle that it happened to one tower,
right,
but not to both,
Not
because
to-
they both literally, like a picture perfect demolition, came straight down on itself. Both towers straight down on themselves. No falling or tipping over. It was a perfectly demolished building. So anyway, I just wanted to show that. Yeah, because that's one thing, for whatever reason, people seem to miss Rick Mayall's
That's great.
take on
Thank
this
you.
whole thing.
I never knew of him. Thank you. And it's more impactful to know that he's a Brit and he's speaking out and he's concerned, because we all should be concerned. It's not that it just happened to the Americans. If it can happen here, then they have to question everything that they've been ever, told happened over there, all their wars and different things. I mean, think about what Joseph had lived through in Ireland, and then the wars between the IRA and the British, and we grew up with that, always on our news cycles. And then like Joseph has a whole narrative to share of his experience that makes you like, oh, okay, so I've been told this about that whole thing. So the thing about 9/11, like what you're saying, I personally can agree that I experienced a trigger to trauma that I haven't even realized how deep it was. Like you're helping, us to realize, like, maybe we've tried to forget about what happened, but we need some remedy. We need an investigation into it. They've what did they do with the woman? Remember that one woman who was demanding, she didn't want to take the payout. She didn't want the settlement. She wanted answers, and she didn't take the money. She wanted to know what happened. And that was when
Mhm.
Obama, remember, she kept drilling
Yep.
into Obama to do it. And then suddenly she dies in
She
a plane
died.
crash.
She just died. Yeah, exactly.
Like in
It's
a
like,
plane crash, I think they, she died. But the thing about 9/11, now that he explained it that way, we knew it, but the way he just explained that using the Jenga tower or whatever, and you could see her cognitive dissonance. And that's how a lot of us feel when we first are presented with something. So this is one of the worst things that they perpetrated next to the pandemic of 2020. That was horrible. But 9/11 was so cruel. And just to see the bodies, jumping, like I can't get that out of my mind. I've not tried to think about it, but it was so traumatizing. And just to watch the buildings, I'll never forget everything I did. I had to rush to go pick my daughter up. That was my first, I had just dropped her off at school, and I'm at
Mhm.
work and I'm like, oh my God, and I got to get in the car. And my brother will tell you, I moved to the West Coast because of 9/11. That's how bad, like, it really, it triggered a deep, like, PTSD that was there, but it layered it on for, I'm sure, a lot of us. And another thing that's really, it's something we need to demand, is that we've been treated like the criminals all these years. 21 years, we're treated still when we go to an airport. Take your shoes off, take this off, do this.
That's where I was going with this.
You're getting shot with radiation that, I don't know if it's real, like, how what Alex Jones has told us. It was because of Alex Jones that I used to protest at airports all the time. I refused to get into the thing. I was like, nope, I'm not doing it. And they're like mad. They treat you real bad. And then they pat you down in front of everyone.
Mhm.
And it's so demoralizing. I've gotten into tiffs with the TSA, because they wanted me to take my buns down so they could check my hair. Can you imagine?
But
You know
and
what? I
then
watched them take. Okay, there was a man in front of me, and he was just a nice, like a guy like you, John, but he had a prosthetic leg, and we're going through the long line. Me and my daughter traveling, right? So I watched the TSA, which they're just like bumbling people that get. I'm not trying to say anything about all of them, but they're not really well trained. Some of them, okay? They had this man take his prosthetic leg off right in front of us. And they took his prosthetic leg and they took the wand, and they were just, look, they're holding his leg up in the air. They're wanding it and they're doing all this. And I was getting so upset. My daughter could see it. I was like, I was starting to hyperventilate. They were doing this to this man, and he was standing. You could look at him. He was so broken. He was so ashamed, and I felt it. That's what I'm saying. Like, I know what you're saying. I felt his like shame and embarrassment,
Mhm.
and I had tears coming down my eyes. I cried, and you know what I said? I told everybody off in that TSA. I said, "How dare you do this to an American citizen? You are
Mhm.
doing this to this man in front of everybody. Why didn't you have how dare you?" And they were like, you know what? Sometimes we need to do that to these people, because you know what? They did it again. I did not want to travel, but this is one of those times where I had to travel during the time where they were being ridiculous, right? So I'm
Mhm.
going through the TSA again, and guess what I see? I see a young mother. She has a baby. You know what they did? They had her pour all the baby's milk bottles out into the trash can. She's pouring, they're doing it. She's giving them the bottles. They're throwing them in the trash. The baby's bottles. And I'm sitting there. I don't have a mask on. I look around everybody. They got their mask on like this. Businessmen and in their suits and all these men. And I looked
Mhm.
around. I could feel that hot feeling happening in my head. I was like, uh-oh, I'm going to jail today, everybody.
She's
I've never
busting a
been to
spoon out.
jail. And I said, You know what I said? I said, no mask on. They're like, she's the crazy black lady over here. I said, excuse me, everybody. I started looking into the line. I said, do you see what's happening to this mother right in front of us? And I'm looking, and they're all like this. They're like, I said, where are the men? Are you guys not going to say anything to this guy? And he was a pimply face, looking like a teenager. I said, you're going to let a mother who's by herself and has a baby, they're taking the baby's milk? I said, are we going to speak up? And they were all like this. Look, nobody said anything. I can't take it. I can't take that in a society. That's why I can't go and travel, because I'm think about all the times you've been traveling, especially now with all the cancellations. This woman with this baby, imagine if she missed her plane, and now she's got to feed the baby. And they made her throw the bottles. And I told them off. I said, what is she supposed to have in the bottle? Something, what's supposed to be so bad about the baby's bottles? And the guy looked at me, and I know what Nazis are. I know what Nazi when I see one. And that's what I saw. He was heartless. He had no compassion. He didn't care. He was doing his job. And why are we allowing? We don't put any pressure on our politicians to do away with this Patriot Act the way we're treated in airports. Why are we putting up with that today, 21 years later? I'm just saying.
Yep. All good points. And that's where I was going with this, is that, and Rick Mail brought up the point of it's about fear and it's about control. And how else there's so many levels of control on this. It's like, how else can we, because if you think about it back then, the internet was still kind of in its early infancy. Like, how we need to be able to, we need to have a police state. We need to make it seem like it's in their own best interest. And so we need something like a false flag. We need fear. We need like the ultimate fear. And the ultimate fear for the United States, if you're a red-blooded patriot and you love the United States, New York City is one of those symbols of freedom because of the Statue of Liberty, the Twin Towers, and just the commercialism and it's just like for most people in other countries, like it's a beacon of like Americana. Like if you were to say what city would you want to go to in America if you could visit America, a lot of them would say New York City.
Always.
So how do we strike fear in the hearts of Americans, not just foreigners, but Americans? Let's start a narrative ahead of time about terrorists and Al Qaeda, and let's start a narrative that we need to watch out for these guys, and we need to, because they're planning something, or they're going to do this, they're going to do that. And then you had Donald Rumsfeld, like the day before, talk about like just a missing $4 trillion. We might have lost $2.4 trillion. We can't account for. Sorry. And the next day, you had the Twin Towers come down. Squirrel. Nobody talked about the missing $2.4 trillion after that.
Nobody has said anything about that. He made that comment because he knew, he was so confident that he could just say it to the people and we would do nothing.
And we're going to protect you now. We're going to take away some of your rights for your own best interest. We have this Patriot Act we're going to pass, which basically violates potentially violates all of your rights. If we want to go down that road, we could do that for your own protection, of course, because we want to make sure there's no other terrorists flying around. So we want to violate your rights to make sure that's not going to happen, even though that's not what we're really doing. But people forget about Barry Jennings. Anybody remember Barry Jennings? Barry Jennings?
The name sounds familiar. Oh, yes.
Who is Barry Jennings? Mr. Jennings was a whistleblower who was inside Building 7 on 9/11. He reported multiple explosions before the building fell. He reported that the lobby was completely blown out and that he had to step over dead bodies on the way out of the building. And if you remember, the narrative was that the building was empty. And because of the towers falling, the structural integrity of that building was, there were fires and all this other stuff. So they supposedly suggested to the owner of the building, and I can't remember his name right off the hand, who was I'm sure was involved with this.
Right.
Like they had to take it down. Like they had to physically take it down themselves. A controlled professional demolition takes a couple weeks at minimum in planning to execute it without hurting anybody, to do it safely, to know what points of the building you need to plant explosives, that kind of stuff. But they did it in a space of a couple hours or however long it was. They supposedly demolished this building on purpose just because for the safety, because they didn't want people going back into it and then it collapsing on them or something like that. So Barry was an outspoken leader in the 9/11 movement when it first started. He mysteriously died after a few years of speaking out. And here I have a little video. This is a video that's actually not very readily available. I'm going to play this really quickly of Mr. Jennings.
Started walking down the stairs. We made it to the 8th floor. Big explosion. Blew us back into the 8th floor. And I turned to Hesh. I said, "This is it. We're dead. We're not going to make it out of here." I took a fire extinguisher and I bust the window out. That's when this gentleman here heard my cries for help.
Wow. Yep, loose change. I remember seeing it. Yep.
Hi, my name is Barry Jennings. I'm 52 years old. I've worked for 33 years at one location. When the Office of Emergency Management did an activation, they always included our locale. And what they did was monitor the emergency. They actually coordinated the emergency through several agencies. I received the call shortly after the first plane hit. I got there, I had to be inside on the 23rd floor when the second plane hit. Upon arriving into the OEM EOC, we noticed that everybody was gone. I saw coffee that was on the desk. Still, the smoke was still coming off the coffee. I saw half-eaten sandwiches. And only me, Mr. Hess, was up there. After I called several individuals, one individual told me that to leave and leave right away. Mr. Hess came running back in and said, "We're the only ones up here. We got to get out of here." He found the stairwell. So we subsequently went to the stairwell and we're going down the stairs. When we reached the 6th floor, the landing that we were standing on gave way. There was an explosion and the landing gave way. And I was left there hanging. I had to climb back up and now I had to walk back up to the 8th floor. When I made it to the 6th floor and there was an explosion, the explosion was beneath me. Keep in mind now, it's pitch black in there. All the lights went out. So when the explosion happened, it blew us back. I'm thinking I'm standing on the landing. I'm actually holding on to a pole above us. Really? And I had to climb back up because Hess is yelling, "What do we do now?" I said, "There's only one thing we can do and it's go back up." Both buildings were still standing. Keep in mind, I told you the fire department came and ran. They came twice. Why? Because building Tower 1 fell, then Tower 2 fell. And then when they came back with all concern now, like to get me the hell out of there. I was trapped in there for several hours. I was trapped in there when both buildings came down. All this time, I'm hearing all type of explosions. All this time, I'm hearing explosions. When they finally got to us, and they took us down to what they called the lobby, because I asked them, I said, when we got down there, I said, "Where are we?" He said, "This was the lobby." And I said, "You got to be kidding me." It was total ruins. Total ruins. Now, keep in mind, when I came in there, the lobby had nice escalators. It was a huge lobby. And for me to see what I saw, it was unbelievable. And the firefighter that took us down kept saying, "Do not look down." And I kept saying, "Why?" He said, "Do not look down." And when you're stepping over people. And you know you can feel when you're stepping over people. This big giant police officer came to me and he says, you have to run. I said, I can't run. My knees are swollen. He said, you'll have to get on your knees and crawl in. He said, because we have reports of more explosions. And that's when I started crawling. And I saw this guy fall behind me and his comrades came to his aid. They dragged him to safety. I'm just confused about one thing and one thing only. Why World Trade Center 7 went down in the first place. I'm very confused about that. I know what I heard. I heard explosions. The explanation I got was it was the fuel oil tank. I'm an old boiler guy. If it was a fuel oil tank, it would have been one side of the building.
I remember him, and may God never let his name be forgotten, because you know what, I'm gonna tell you, that's a real New Yorker right there. When you listen to him, that's what I know of New Yorkers. They are highly intelligent, and he knows what he knows, and he articulated like that narrative right there. That is enough to convict these people that we know that the narrative is not true. So many people, we need to know about who the players were, and it's come to a head now. I think this man's death, it can't be in vain, because that was so courageous for him to speak to the people that he spoke to right after that. His question was the question of the century. Why did Building 7 also go down? It makes no sense.
Yeah, because it wasn't hit by anything. It wasn't,
Yes,
because the two towers came straight down, so it's not like they fell over on top of it. I could see maybe some external damage from some of the rubble, from the building collapsing, but you wouldn't have, as he described, he's described on several occasions explosions in the building.
Several.
So, and as he stated, the lobby it looked like with escalators, it looked like a lobby, looked like, and by the time they left, it looked like it was destroyed, like it was a war zone. And
it makes me mad. Karen. You know what, John? I get so mad about this. He described it. Yep. Yes. And we have a friend in our family, me and the guru. We have a friend who's like, they're like relatives. They've known our parents like since they were little, and they had a daughter who she worked up in New York. That's not uncommon for people in Philadelphia to commute to New York every day. My stepfather did it too. He worked in New York City many years. So she would commute from Philadelphia up to New York. And when that happened, she was actually headed into the city, about to get off, she was getting off the train, and she was coming up the stairs. And all of the soot, she described, it was like snowing, all of that stuff, and it was all over her face. She was just covered in it, and she was looking around. Can you imagine, you're coming out of the subway or wherever, and you're coming up, and it was just all darkened and just all this soot and dust everywhere, and her whole face was just covered. And she was, of course, she got back on the train or did some, I don't know what, I forget the narrative, but she really suffered, a lot of trauma. And we just recently learned that she died couple weeks, 3-4 weeks ago. And we have our theories, about that. I don't know. It's just been like a lot of questions about it. But I'm just saying, like, some of us know people that actually were, directly affected, and What did they tell us afterwards? Go and spend money. Remember they did that,
Yes.
George Bush and those guys? Go
Yep.
and shop. It's get the economy stirred up and go out and buy things and go buy French fries, freedom French fries. And you know what? I'm actually mad now that I think about it, because I used to like George Bush and I thought he was a good guy. Somebody mentioned the picture of him playing with the paper airplane on the floor, and it was in Epstein's house. Yeah, I know that.
Uh-oh, lost Jen. Jeez. Well, I agree 100% with Jen. I can't even talk about it or show any more of it. I've done 3 shows on it, 2-hour shows just on this alone. And it still pisses me off. I can't get through an entire show without getting pissed off. So with that being said, till Jennifer gets back on here, I'm going to go into a couple other things that I had for today. So, hold on a sec here. First of all, I'm gonna text her to make sure she's all right here. Let's see, what do we got comments wise? As she says, my device went out. So, yeah, we'll see if she can log back on. One moment, please. All right, so let me find. I'm going to talk about cynocephalus. Well, let's see what she says here. Huh. She's saying that it won't keep a charge even when it's plugged in. It's happening to all her devices. All right, so cynocephalus, the dog-headed men. Most people have heard of werewolves, but few know of the ancient race of dog-headed men, better known as the cynocephali. A cynocephalus was essentially a man with the head of a dog. They could understand language, but had no ability to speak. Though they are sometimes depicted in artwork as being civilized, they were, by all reports, savage beasts who lived to hunt and kill. Hold on, let me send Jen the link real quick here to her phone. I feel like I should be playing the Jeopardy music right now. All right. Though they are sometimes depicted in artwork as being civilized, they were, by all reports, savage beasts who lived to hunt and to kill. A lot of old texts and a lot of old paintings have a lot of depictions of these dog-headed people, dog-headed men. I don't know if they were dog-headed men only, or if there could be females. Do not know. But like some of these old texts, you can see right down here in the bottom here, the old dog-headed person with this monk. Oh, there she is. Man, see, the deep state got you. We were talking about something we shouldn't be talking about, but
You know it. Josephine even came over as tech support. She said, I'll check it out. Okay, Jen? She was even baffled.
yeah. Yes, Becky. She's talking about the owner of the Titanic taking out insurance. JP Morgan Chase. Absolutely. So I'm talking about cynocephalus, the dog-headed people.
Oh, wow.
You ever heard of them?
No.
Cynocephalus, the dog-headed men. Most people have heard of werewolves, but few know of the ancient race of dog-headed men, better known as the cynocephali. I love the scientific name, or the plural, cynocephali. It sounds like it could be a 50 Cent song, cynocephali. A cynocephalus was essentially a man with the head of a dog. They could understand language, but they had no ability to speak. They are sometimes depicted in artwork as being civilized. I like that. They were, by all reports, savage beasts who lived to hunt and kill. So I was just stating that a lot of old, especially biblical or Christian texts, and a lot of old historical texts and paintings, I come across these guys all the time. Like there's like this one here, this, and you know it's a religious text because these dudes all have halos, so they must be the prophets or the apostles. And then you have this dog-headed dude down on the bottom here, just looking up at the apostles here and talking to a monk or whoever this is over here. It looks like he's holding a can of beer, or a Red Bull or something there.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have, let's see here. Hey, IG.
Hey, IG. Oh, wow. So
Queenie
cool.
is unalived. Yeah. Yes, Queenie is unalived.
That's right, IG. How you doing, IG? Welcome. That's right. She was unalived. The CGI queen.
That's right. And we're going to do a show on that because I actually did a show on that probably 8 or 9, 10 months ago, whatever. And I even commented to somebody recently right after she passed. I wonder if they're going to roll out the CGI queen, or they're actually going to have the queen in the services and that kind of stuff. But anyway, So you see this is a sculpture. I don't know where it's from. I don't remember where I got this picture from. But again, like human-like features except for the dog head. One is actually holding a sword. And then this is some kind of a scientific text, like where it's like they actually treat it as an actual thing. Cynocephali effigies, and they're talking about. It's weird because this stance. I love it when like pictures you almost see action. So you got
right.
It's like this cynocephalus is like selling something. Like what happened was over here, you had these people sitting over here minding their own business. And what had happened was over here. So I love that kind of action kind of pose. It's not just like a.
Right. Definitely some action.
Sorry, folks.
We used to love doing that at work. Like we would always say, because I worked at a trauma center, Grady, and so a lot of people would come in with like dislocated jaws, and they would always say, like, I don't know what happened, and I know you were sitting on a bench reading your Bible, minding your
right.
business. Someone just came and slugged you, right?
On your way to church, Sunday afternoon.
Right.
Get ready to pick up your grandma. I just thought this was a interesting cynocephalus picture because they're all just wearing like whatever 15th, 16th century clothes, whatever it is, and they are like trading, like they're selling grain or doing something. This one's like pointing the finger like, what the hell is that? What are you eating, George? What the shit is that? And these guys over here playing, what's that, like, where you smack your hand? Hey, brother, you know, like they're like some kind of
bizarre. I've never heard of these people or whatever.
Cynocephalus. And let's look at this dude's hand here. Look how big that thing is.
Oh gosh. Oh,
it's like a flipper. I mean, sorry, don't mean to make fun of the artists of that time, but come on, perspective, you know, whatever, something.
How crazy.
They already got a dog's head. They don't need a flipper. And I find these images interesting because, you know, if you've ever seen images of like Vlad the Impaler, the inspiration for Dracula, you know, Dracula and wearing armor. And so you have this Cynocephalus with this staff or whatever this is, armor, like a nobleman, noble person, whatever. I don't know. And this is kind of what creeped me out a little bit, because we know in a lot of older texts, they would always depict spiritual or holy figures like the apostles or Jesus or Mary or Joseph with the halo, and the angels they would always depict. But this Cynocephalus, seemingly this artist decided to put a halo or something behind its head. So, yeah, it all makes sense, you know, about the DNA manipulation, creepy shit. Right. Hey, Nana, haven't seen you in a while. How you doing? Listening while cleaning my house for my blood sister's visit. She's a city girl and I'm not.
Oh,
nice.
Hey, how you doing? And Joanne is here. Look at
Joanne
that.
there.
Oh, Lady Kenny already. Oh, cool.
Getting the band back together.
Getting the band back together. So nice.
And see, here's another one that's depicting this person. I don't know who it is, but it's clearly a holy figure with the halo. But you have these Cynocephalus with their spears and shields and whatever. What's up? What are you doing, Jesus or Joseph or whoever you are? You got to pay the toll to the troll, buddy. You can't pass here without getting by us. Just because you have a halo doesn't mean you're special. Don't you see we have dog heads?
Oh gosh. How
sorry, I'm getting a little loopy here.
Yeah, look, we all are. We've been going through this how long? This clown show.
Yes. So the more vicious side of the Cynocephali, or at least one of their tribes, was documented in the story of Jason and the Argonauts. One of my favorite as a kid, even though it was one of the hokiest movies ever made. I loved Jason and the Argonauts and all his travels and, you know, the Cyclops and everything else that they, you know, would encounter.
Right.
Then, according to this, Jason and the Argonauts, who, in their quest for the Golden Fleece, the Argo, their ship, the Argo, came across a group of Cynocephali. I wonder if the Kardashians can make a song about that. Cynocephali. The battle ended up in a win for the traveling adventurers, but it put the vision of the dog-faced humans as brutal foes in people's minds. The Cynocephali didn't belong to the Greeks alone and were well known far beyond Greece with different names, but with very similar characteristics. They were documented in Egypt. The gods Hapi and Anubis were shown to have the faces of dogs and were also part of the tales of ancient China that describe the citizens of a mythical continent called Fusang. And I've never heard of that before. I thought I knew a lot about China, but a mythical continent called Fusang. Like the Wu-Tang clan, they must have came from Fusang. Wu-Tang from Fusang. Can you, like, hey, Karen,
check with Karen and Joseph, because they know about a lot of land masses, and I wonder if they've ever heard of this land.
Okay, if you guys know, let us know. According to a Buddhist missionary named Hui Sheng, an island of dog-headed men lived on an island to the east of Fusang, where it was known as Dog Kingdom. You know, it's Chinese because they were very literal in their description. Dog kingdom.
Right. You know what?
Oh,
Now
don't go to that dog kingdom.
the dog king. Now it makes sense if it's an island. Remember, we've just been seeing all these places have islands all around.
Yes.
So it's easy to, now I can see a land could be something that so many lands and islands off of the coastal parts of bigger islands, archipelagos, right?
Lady Knievel's like, you're in a funny mood now, Johnny. Yes, I am. And then Sean's like, we've infected him. And then, hold on, it gets better. They probably have syphilis. Well, maybe not me. I hope you're not referring to me. Maybe it's the dog-headed dudes, the Wu-Tang Clan.
That or rabies, right?
Yes, actually, you know, or what's that? Mange.
Mange.
Mange. Because there's a lot of misreported Bigfoot sightings that often are bears that have mange because it makes them look almost human-like, hairy humans, because they get emaciated and their hairs, they lose a lot of hair, and so when they stand, they kind of look like
I see.
hunchbacks or whatever you want to call them. But
that makes sense. Yeah, mange. How about that?
Mange. I found this interesting. I thought I knew a lot about Egypt because I've been I guess fan's not the word I want to use, but interested in and studied Egypt since I was a kid. I have a whole bookshelf of just books on Egypt and hieroglyphs and stuff. It's always, since I was a kid, it's just been a fascination for me because, and I won't talk about it on this show. Well, maybe we'll make it another show and we'll invite some audience members into the chat or into the show. But I used to have a recurring dream about Egypt that I was involved in. So, but we'll talk about that another time.
Oh, cool.
But I found this really interesting. I did not know this. If you run the image of the sculpture of Ramses II through a computer, it comes out that it is perfectly symmetrical to within 1 millimeter. Perfectly symmetrical. The official version says that the work on the statue took decades and the tools used were a hammer and chisel. It is simply physically impossible to achieve such an exact result with a hand tool. I 100% agree with that. That kind of perfection, I don't care how long you're working on it, that kind of symmetry, like unless you had something to, you know, like a reference to be able to perfectly line it up,
right?
That is, to me, that is an absolutely amazing thing, how symmetrical this is.
I know. Wow.
To within 1 millimeter. And if you take the size of that actual image, the bust or whatever, the head, that makes it even more spectacular. I mean, I don't know the exact dimensions of that head, but it's big.
No, yeah.
So to be symmetrical to within 1 millimeter, I mean, that's like the, not even the thickness of a credit card. It's like, that's crazy. Crazy, I'm telling you.
Totally. Wow.
When you were in Egypt, did you get that like sense of awe, like the sense of like amazement that these pyramids, these statues, these obelisks, the hieroglyphs, everything, you know, was even, I can't even imagine like what I would feel if I was standing in front of a lot of that stuff.
It's like an undescribable feeling when you first like encounter it. Like I'll never forget when we were flying and we were about to begin our descent and we were in Cairo, and then the pilot says, oh, look over to, and it happened to be on our side of the plane, look over to your whatever, and there are the pyramids, and this is my first time. Can you imagine seeing it from the airplane? It took my breath away because I'm like, no way. I'm about to really like just the build up to like, I'm about to get on this plane and I'm going to really see this. So I think it was like the build up for me. And then going in them, I've had like some, we were having some experiences, like, we were able to get access through knowing, a tour guide, an amazing person, like where we were able to stay in chambers like the king's chamber, and like I was able to sit there and just take it in, and it's like sweltering, you know, you're dripping sweat, you know, and you're climbing through little crawl spaces up and down, you know, and just being inside and just knowing like this is so historical. It is like a really, like, it's a head trip. I can't even describe it, you know, but I was that kind of kid too, like you. I had books and I wanted to see all the specials on the history of Egypt, and I was really, really caught up in Egypt, you know.
Yeah,
So,
it's, I think, and we've talked about race memory in the past, and I'm a real big, right now I'm on that bandwagon that race memory is a thing, that at a cellular level, humanity doesn't lose its memories. Like it's all memories are passed forward genetically. And that was actually at the Summit of Greatness I was at this weekend. There was a woman, a doctor, psychologist, whatever she was. She talked about that exact thing, but it was in reference to disorders, like psychological disorders and other things, being generational, like passed down. Like somebody 100 years ago, you could be experiencing their trauma, kind of thing, genetically, that was never resolved, like a trauma that was never resolved. It was an interesting talk.
Yeah.
So Egypt had such a big part in human history. So I can only imagine the impact that it has subconsciously on a lot of people, whether they know it or not. There's something, even as a kid, there's something awe-inspiring about ancient Egypt. Whether it was the people, their life, their depiction of their universe with all the gods, the underworld, the hieroglyphs, the monuments. It's hard not to be drawn into that. And just because it was such an achievement, like it was such an advanced culture for the time. And it's still today, it's still in contrast. And this is nothing against modern Egyptians or people that live in Egypt, nothing against the people that live there, but it's such a stark contrast to the culture now compared to what it was then.
No, you're right. Like two different type of civilizations. When you go there, it's like, you know, that the people living there currently, that isn't the same people from the ancient times. So it's something has happened. But you know what? I want to ask you this, and anybody in the chat, because now that you're saying this, I'm starting to wonder why. You know, everything is on the table with me. I don't have any sacred cows anymore. And so I'm wondering, why are we so caught up in Egypt? Is that part of like a programming thing? Because now that I'm rethinking everything, excuse me, as I'm just doing the phone as opposed to the other thing, as I'm rethinking everything, I don't have any sacred cows anymore. I'm willing to think about it all. And one of the things I want you to consider is that we've been told that the plain of Giza is like, that's the hub of all the pyramids. And I get it. I was just caught up in it. I've been to Egypt 2 times. I've been inside all 3 of those I think all 3 of them. I almost passed out going in them. I couldn't even do it anymore. I had to I had to tap out. Like, I had my daughter, and our tour guide was like her age, and they're like going in and out. And I was like, look, I'm about to die in one of these pyramids. That's not going to be a good story to tell. Like, she died in a pyramid. Like, I can't do that. So I couldn't just keep up with all that going in the pyramid stuff. So I went in 2, or I think I was done. But my thing is this. When you realize that you have the Sudan, okay, so you have Sudan, which is really part of Egypt at one time.
Yep.
And they have a whole set of pyramids that even have a more amazing, like the look of them is like, whoa.
Well, it's funny you should say that. I saw that. Oh my God, this is like that whole synchronicity thing. Earlier today, I saw that the Sudan has more pyramids than Egypt
Yes.
does. They have
More
200,
pyramids.
255 pyramids compared to 131 or something like that
There you
for
are.
Egypt.
Yes, and the people that live in this area of southern, they call it southern Egypt. So they have all these pyramids. Why don't we have a concern? Why didn't I go travel there to go see those pyramids? And why is it that we're always funneled to Giza, to Cairo? And I don't know. I'm just having a disconnect now, and I'm not treating anything like it's just so sacred that I can't question. And because I got so caught up that I actually traveled there like a pilgrimage. And now that I'm thinking about it in retrospect, I don't know what it did for me. Honestly, I don't know what it did for me. It's like, okay, I did it. I checked it off the bucket list, but what has it done for me to go inside these pyramids and see, like, I literally saw like mummies. Like I saw Egyptian kings that had skin still on. They preserve hair, teeth, everything's still there. And to see the King Tut, like the royal headdress, and just to be right there in front of it. I'm just saying that when we learn about all these other pyramids that are also around, why are they not given the equal? I don't know. I'm just saying.
Right. I understand what you're saying. And
you know what I'm saying? And have we ever been impacted by a figure out of Egypt? Like, when you think about figures in history that have impacted the world, who do we know of? What name, right? We only know of names like Jesus Christ. Some people say Buddha, Krishna, right? Krishna, all of these figures, right? So why is there not one out of Egypt that has impacted our lives? Like, what? I'm just asking.
Right.
I'm like,
yeah, because even out of Samaria or that time period, you've had Gilgamesh. So you had like a singular figure out of that. And I wonder if it's the pantheon effect. I think I just created a new term. So don't be using it. I'm copywriting it. The pantheon effect.
Right. Pantheon. I love it.
Well, look at all the cultures that had pantheons of deities, like the Romans, the Greeks, the Norse, like Vikings, Egyptians. They all had pantheons. They had groups of deities, like not just one. Yeah, there was one like Ra, or one that stood out as being like the more powerful or the most powerful, like Zeus and Odin. But they individually don't have standouts in any of those cultures, like that have pantheons of deities.
Right.
That's
a good point.
So I think what you're saying, and I think possibly that's probably why we don't have that one, like, oh my God, Ra, or oh my God, Set, or Thoth, or Happy, or whoever, because I think they were all so ingrained into the society, and they all served a function, and they all, like, the sun rose because of this particular god, the sun set because of this particular god of the underworld, and and so even when the Nile crested or flooded, you had the alligator or the crocodile god, I can't remember his name, but so there was gods that represented every facet of their life. So I think they got kind of a balanced treatment to some extent.
Maybe. But they're not influential is what I'm saying. Like, we don't have a connection other than if we study the pantheon of the gods, but it's not inspirational. In other words, it's not something where you say, oh, wow, Ra, he really went through a lot as a teen. Oh my goodness, look at all he overcame. We don't have a personal kind of like connection where we've learned. Actually, to be honest, like everything we've been taught, a lot of us growing up in our faiths, we've been taught that Egypt represents everything that we should escape. Like
Right.
Egypt is a place of it's known as a place of bondage, and we know that the Pharaoh kept the people of Israel, and like he had to go through all of those plagues and things like that. So Egypt is a place of bondage, and we're told leave Egypt, leave it,
Right.
flee. So I'm thinking like that
Well,
would
the
be a
entire
good
book
thing
of
to really
Exodus was
unpack.
about that.
You know, we should unpack that more, because it's a lot of people, and myself included, that I grew up, and for some reason, why did our heart go towards the pyramids and wanting to know about the pharaohs and yet we can't name a pharaoh that has influenced our Western culture. Think about that. That's like that's why I'm saying I'm questioning everything. I'm looking at everything and saying why. So if Egypt is so like it draws us in, and a lot of us have these fantasies from childhood, Egypt is fascinating, and yet we're told flee. Egypt represents like the world system that's a bondage system. It's on our money. Look at the pyramids, right. Our money. So I'm thinking like I need to reevaluate all of this. But I'm just saying that there hasn't been anyone to blow us away out of Egypt other than King Tut. And then when you look at the pictures of these guys, they're like we're all inbred. Cleopatra looked like, oh my God, did you see the pictures when they reenacted like the look of these people? They had a lot of problems because they were inbred. I mean, a father was having like children with his daughter. So like they weren't even like, they didn't have a moral compass even. And I'm thinking, what's up with this? Like, why are we so drawn to this? I don't know. I'm just like saying, John, I'm just like, wait a minute, you know? I don't know, because you can say Jesus Christ, and either people, they're like love, they'll fight you, or they hate and they don't understand, like they get a visceral reaction, but everybody gets a reaction either way. But if you say King Tut or Nefertiti, they'll be like, oh, okay, whatever, it looks good on the jewelry. I mean, I like wearing a Nefertiti head on my chain, but there's nothing life altering about it, you know? So I'm just saying, you know, what's up? And then again, back to your point, when you go around Cairo and you look at the people, they're Arab, okay? They're from Jordan, they're from Saudi Arabia, different places. They live in Cairo, and they are like Islamic. They practice Islam. They have an Arabic culture. And so if they're not, are they the Egyptians of the pyramids? And if not, what happened to the Egyptians? Why are there never like people that we could say come from these people?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes, I know. We just, in this conversation, it's not the end of the show, but we just came full circle to why I ended up starting the show the way I did, because I was reading Exodus. Exodus is entirely about what you're talking about right now. If you've read Exodus, it talks about exactly what Jennifer's talking about as far as the idea of fleeing, having to leave Egypt. And but the thing that caught me in Exodus, and this is where it put me in my, what we talked about earlier. If you weren't on earlier, I'm not going to go through the whole thing again. So watch the whole show.
Yes.
But I don't want to misquote it. Hold on. Let me, hold on a minute, please. Let's see here. Okay. Let's see. Pull up my handy dandy Bible here. So in Exodus 20, chapter 20, verse 3, depending on what version, and that's the other thing that fed into my whole narrative that I was talking about earlier, is because you can't get an exact translation from Aramaic because there's no like literal word for word, translation. And so there's a lot of interpreting that goes on. But let's see. The King James Version in Exodus 23, thou shalt have no other gods before me. This passage is what sent me on my little crisis of faith over the last couple weeks. Because and as you know, I'm a very literal person and so when I read this, and the only reason I say this is because everybody that I argue with, not in a bad way, but a good way, everybody I talk to about the Bible, specifically the New Testament, but we're talking about Exodus. They're always talking about standing on the Word of God. They always use that phrase, standing on the Word of God. So like there's no interpretation. It's like the Word of God is the Word of God. So, but when I read Exodus 23, you shall have no other gods, plural, before me. In my mind, my analytical mind, automatically my spidey sense goes off and, okay, whoever wrote this implies that there's more than one God. You shall have no other gods before. Why would you have a commandment or something like that if that was a concern? If that wasn't a concern? Like if there wasn't another God that you're worried about people praying to or worshiping. But anyway, what you were just talking about, Exodus literally just ties in everything that you were just talking about, the whole concept of fleeing and distraction from Egypt. And God, I had a point. I don't remember where I was going with this. Crap. I hate when I do that.
That's okay. They'll come.
Alzheimer's. Must have plaque on my brain or something. all this damn thinking I've been doing the last couple of years got too much plaque on the brain. We'll circle back to that, as Jen Psaki would say.
Right. It's a good point that Sean is making, the little g God as opposed to the one, true God. So gods are plenty of gods, but
this is where my ancient alien brain goes. It's like, okay, well, they're really not gods. These are beings, whether they're from here or not. Because think about mankind at that time. Any kind of science or any kind of technology would have seemed godlike to them. If they were able to travel in airplanes or ships or whatever, and they had modern clothes, like shiny clothes, or they had this, they had that, and they spoke in a different, like how we speak, or to me, it would seem like magic to those people, or seem like they had godly powers. So that's where my brain went, was like, okay, now, because almost every culture talks about beings coming down from the heavens and starting their culture in some way, or helping their culture in some way, or especially the Mayans and the Aztecs, they talk about it freely. And the ancient Native Americans talk about the sky people, bringing them their culture and helping them. And with the Mayans, they brought them mathematics. And so, I mean, can you imagine, even we're not like super advanced, but can you imagine like if a group of us were living back in Mexico a couple thousand years ago, 5,000 years ago, or whatever, even if we lost everything we had in a crash, but we still had our knowledge, and we still had our writing and our mathematics and our knowledge of the stars and our knowledge of philosophy and other things, and medicine, and that would you would seem godlike to those people. Like you would. So anyway, I don't know where I was going with this, but long story short is that Exodus passage is what made me kind of go on that tangent, and then go on that little ride, that little journey of gods, like Sean says, little gods, little G's, not necessarily like divine beings, but advanced beings. So
yeah, no, I
take
get it.
that for a
Because you
go.
know how I feel like at this point, a lot of the rabbit holes, a lot of the things, like it seems that we could chase shadows, almost like chasing shadows, because like it leads to the same place. Like, you know, when we went through, a lot of us went through the flat earth, right? And remember when Jason of Archaics kept saying, like, he has the flat earth like sort of community coming at him, from what I understand, because of some of the things that he talks about with the firmament, the simulacrum or whatever. And I'm not really sure the different rub that they, you know, have with his, you know, approach or whatever. But he says something interesting about it. He's like, you can't stop at flat earth. Like, that's not it. Like, flat earth, it just like, it doesn't bring you to a whatever, like a conclusion in a sense.
Right.
And so he takes it further to understand, how is this all going to like culminate into whatever is going to happen, like in a historical way, because like he's done it according to the math. And like I'm thinking about like some of these different, per se, like, you know, the Egyptians and everything, and then thinking about what we're dealing with right now, and how, what is the prescription for like how we've let these people take our world over? Like, what's the prescription for it? You know, like a lot of people believe that someone else externally is doing something for us, and that kind of lets us sit back and like, oh, they're taking care of it. I don't see them, but they're taking care of it. And it kind of takes it off of us to do work, because we just still believe in like, oh, we're going to be snatched up into the clouds one day, you know, and that these theories that we've been programmed to just sit back, and that's why they've been able to take so much ground, because we get caught in chasing shadows. Like in other words, like I'm starting to feel like America's destiny is so critical, because we are to bring back law and order, because we have to speak it, because it's the only thing that makes sense right now. Because, okay, the Egyptians, what did they do? They only wanted to die and have a great death, and then now they're gone. Like, I'm just thinking about, like, what, you guys just came here and did all this stuff and you left? That doesn't make any sense. Like, you left and what? And what? It's like a cliffhanger. Like, are you coming back? So you just let like all these Arabs move into your land, and now they're the Egyptians, we're told. Hello, like something. The math isn't mathing, as they say.
Math isn't mathing. I like that. I haven't heard that before. The math isn't mathing. It's funny you should say that, because one of the memes I'm going to present here shortly involves that idea. The math isn't mathing. So keep, when you see this meme in a little bit, keep Jennifer's phrase in mind. So there's another ancient culture or area, since we're talking about Egypt. I just had it in the folder for today. It's Baalbek. Baalbek is located in the Bekaa Valley, which is in the foothills of the Lebanon Mountains. In the past, megalithic foundations were often used in buildings. These bases often weighed hundreds of tons. And if you've followed the show, we talk about these megalithic structures all the time, but this is one that I've never heard of.
Oh, wow.
And more than 10 meters in length. The stone for the trilithon was quarried from a number of sites that are within a mile of the temple complex, One such site contained a large stone cut block that was still attached to the bedrock at its base and was known as the Stone of the Pregnant Woman. Until recently, this block was considered the largest cut stone block known to man. Keep that in mind. But excavations around its base uncovered a further 2 cut stones lying prepared next to it, but still both attached to the rock at their base. The weight of these blocks are estimated between 1,500 and 2,000 tons. Tons! Historians do not really ask how a block over 1,000 tons can be lifted and moved into place. And I want to show you some pictures here.
Mm-hmm. Oh boy.
Like if you look at like this, like you can't even see the edge of it. Like this one block goes all the way here.
Really?
This one looks like it's broke, but it looks like it went pretty far. But I mean, these are massive, massive.
Unreal.
But yet they were manipulated and put in place by people with primitive tools and technology. And here's one of the ones that wasn't completely cut out.
Wow.
You can see where they had got it down to this point here, and they were excavated at an angle. I thought that was interesting, which is smart if you're going to try to move it if it's already leaning in a direction, like if you can quarry it at an angle.
Right.
Of course, people have to put graffiti on it because that's just how people are.
Yeah.
But look how even it's not polished, but that is such a flat, smooth surface.
Yeah.
And let's see here. Apparently somebody planted a flag on that one. But look at the side compared to this dude here, the one next to him and the one he's standing on that they started to quarry.
Wow. That's crazy.
Those blocks are insane.
They really are.
And again, it goes back to my point. Why would you do something that is seemingly impossible unless it was possible and easy to do?
True. Yeah. And cost efficient, right?
Yeah. And not death efficient.
Yeah.
Unalive deficient. I mean, look at these things.
Yeah.
I mean, is that Jill Biden? Oh, anyway. Is that Dr. Jill?
Dr. Jill.
So, I mean, that's just, again, one of those things that's just remarkable to me.
Truly.
The missing history. There's something missing. There's just something that does not make sense because they're all over the world. They're all over the world. It's not like one culture sprung up and got advanced and said, okay, we're going to build these giant megalithic structures. Let's go. Let's do this. But no, it happened all over the world.
Yep.
Something's missing. There's a piece of the puzzle missing.
A lot is missing. 1,000 years to be precise.
This looks like one of those Jenga pieces.
Yeah, it does actually. Jenga.
They were building a big Jenga tower.
It does. Wow.
Has anybody heard of the concept of cellular voltage? I want to play this video clip really quick because it makes perfect sense to me. Because we are electrical beings. We are, well, here, take a listen. Take a listen. I'm not commanding. I'm just saying, you're watching the show. You might as well listen.
Why isn't this in our health textbooks? So Dr. Otto Warburg did research on cellular voltage and he found out that it's so important when it comes to health. He did not find sick people with high voltage and he did not find healthy people with low voltage. Here is a chart explaining cellular voltage. Optimal cell voltage is between 100 millivolts and 70 millivolts. And cancer cells usually have a cell voltage below 20 millivolts. But now you're thinking, why is cellular voltage so important to health? I'm about to share with you guys the craziest experiment with the salamander and the frog. Robert O. Becker was so fascinated with the salamander and its ability to heal itself. The salamander has the ability to regenerate its limbs, half a heart, and even a whole eye. So Robert O. Becker decided to cut off a limb from the salamander and the frog. Mind you that the frog doesn't have these healing abilities, so if you cut off a limb, that's the end of it. When he cut off both limbs, the cellular voltage completely dropped for both of them. But for the salamander, there was a surge of energy that went up to negative 30 millivolts, and all of that energy went straight to the limb. Meanwhile, the frog only had a steady rise of voltage and it went back to its normal state. And Robert O. Becker discovered that this surge of energy is what stimulated this regeneration. So Becker wondered if he supplied a current to the frog stump, will it cause regeneration? And when he supplied a low frequency and a low intensity current, you know what happened? The frog regenerated its whole limb. When Nikola Tesla said, if you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration, he is not joking.
Wow.
Ain't no joke.
That is seriously amazing.
And then speaking of, since we're on that subject of healing, I really do think that, first of all, before we talk about this, electrical fields affect your body. I mean, we are a big electrical field. We are a walking electrical field.
Definitely.
Think about all the technology that we're surrounded with nowadays, with all the radio signals, the microwaves for the cell phones, satellite signals, which I think are microwaves as well. Your modem at home, your router, your wireless router and stuff like that, it sends off radio signals at specific frequencies. Driving in your car outside, in traffic, the humming of the tires on the road, everything's making sound and making energy and frequencies. And there was an apparatus, and I think we had it on the show. I don't know how long ago it was. But Tesla was the one that had the idea for it. And then this doctor, I think it was in the 20s or 30s, showed that at a specific frequency, you could kill cancer cells and no other cells. Like the cancer cells resonated at a specific frequency.
Right.
And as long as you used a frequency that, like a sympathetic frequency for that, you could destroy just those cancer cells and not damage the cells around it.
Mm-hmm.
And we always talk about people having good energy. And when you walk into a room, people seem to gravitate towards a certain person or a group of people, or avoid a person or a group of people. I really do think that energy plays a lot into your health. So when you want to distance yourself from somebody that's always negative or low energy or whatever, that could affect your actual, your voltage. Like, so if you're dropping below a certain point or whatever, it could physically harm you being around negative people all the time. Whereas people that are positive and always, have a great outlook, happy, you always seem to feel good around them. You always seem to, and you don't have to have like an intimate relationship with them. It's just, these are just like, and think about what happened over the last couple of years when they tried to close churches and things like that, because churches are one place where a lot of people get together that have a similar, like they're there for the same reason. And it's usually uplifting. It's very, people are singing, they're dancing, they're playing instruments, they're worshiping, they're praying. So when you get a group of people together like that, can you imagine like why people feel so good, when you're in a group of people like that?
Yeah, they didn't want it.
You still there?
Hey, you there?
Oh, there you are.
Okay. Oh, you know what? I'm about to look. You know what? I'm gonna have to go soon. I'm having. Wait a minute.
You got like the Amityville Horror House, but for electronics.
Yeah. You know what? I actually do have to run though. Actually, I didn't realize how late it was, but the other thing is hardly even charged. Just in that time, nothing. This is the device that bumped me off. But oh my gosh, like I'm sorry though. I gotta run, you guys.
That's all right. You gotta do what you gotta do.
I know between
So
this and the technology, but I'll get my. You know what? I'm not even letting the technology get me down. I know a lot of people have technical stuff going on. I try to encourage everybody. We're gonna get through it. It's just a bump. It's like some kind of bump in the road with the technology right now. Um,
no worries.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep fighting for it, and I need you to help me with some things. Actually, John, I'll probably hit you up about some technological stuff. But please forgive me for having to run.
It's okay. There's no forgiveness. That's all. It's all good.
Thank you all. Okay, everybody who's here, I wanted to just say thank you. And John, listen, I'll catch up with you, okay?
Yeah, because we still have to talk about your grand opening.
Oh yeah, that's right. We'll catch up with that.
Okay.
And you can still hear me though right now, right? Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. So listen.
You're good.
Okay. Have a good rest of your evening, everyone. If you hear me, see me.
Yes, we do.
Okay. Take good care.
You too, Jennifer. We
Okay.
love you. Until next time.
All right. We'll catch up. Okay. Bye-bye.
All right. Good night.
Good night. Good night, everyone. Love you. So
I'm going to normally have a bunch of memes, but I'm going to save them for next time. Because the whole point of them is to get Jen's reaction. She chuckles, snorts, and it's a funny thing. So anyway, I mean, you guys have been wonderful. Everybody in chat's been great tonight. It's been rolling. We got the normal, we got the band back together. We got the regulars, the usuals, which is awesome. So, and if you don't follow Jennifer, her information will be in the links of this video. So I would highly recommend, if you don't, go over there and follow her. No, that sounded funny. I highly recommend that you go over there and follow her. Yes, Lady Knievel, I love memes too. I love to laugh. I absolutely, you know what? I'm gonna show just a couple, and since Jennifer was talking about the math isn't mathing, our good friend, the White House correspondent, had this little math gem this week.
We have created nearly 10,000 million jobs since President Biden took office.
10,000 million jobs. Let's hear that again. 10,000 million.
We have created nearly 10,000 million jobs since President Biden took office.
Man, dude's on fire. 10,000 million jobs. I thought this was funny. Tesla service vehicle on the road is actually a Ford. Let's see here. Gonna tell my kids this is how flatbread is made. You know, the sad thing is I've seen things like this happen in the grocery store where people just cop a squat pretty much anywhere they want. This woman just happens to be sitting on the old Hawaiian rolls, looks like. I can't make this stuff up. I'm telling you. This is probably one of the most truest statements ever. Let's see here. The most powerful governments on Earth can't keep a virus from spreading, but they say they can change Earth's temperature if you pay more taxes.
Uh-huh.
Thanks for voting and follow me on Twitter. Good old Joe, good old Joey Bribes. That is his voter base, pretty much, as it seems to be coming out now. And I'm going to end with this one because this is by far one of the funniest things I've ever seen. This is an oldie but a goodie. It keeps keeps changing faces, but the meme is still the same. And if you haven't seen it, enjoy.
Hey, buddy.
Whoa! You know you can't bring that weak ass stuff up in this Humpty Bumpy. You killed a Joe. You make some more. You know that, baby. Else you in for a long day. A long day. Cause Triple T's up in this bitch. Break was over 15 minutes ago, bitch. I am an enforcer, man. Don't nothing go down in my house. It's 100% hard, baby. Sure, I jack a few fools. I give them the pain. But sometimes it's about intimidation, you know. It's mind games. Ah! These ain't your pants, Richard. These pants belong in my house. You can't come in my kitchen and kick my dog and take a box full of ballpoints. Your ass must be crazy.
Thanks, Lady Knievel. Sorry about that. I bet you that looked goofy. But anyway, what I was saying was, for everybody that was in the chat and stayed the whole time, God bless you. Thank you so much for the support. Jennifer and I absolutely love doing this show. With all the craziness going on, it's just a way to unwind. Hopefully you guys got something out of this. You know, maybe some head scratchers, maybe some whatever, some entertainment, who knows. But ultimately, we love having you guys here, and we love having this time with you. Please share, like it, spread it to, you know, wherever you got to spread it to. We do want to grow this channel. So, and if you don't follow Jennifer, you know, the link's in the description here. Go over and follow her as well. But until next time, love you guys. Thank you so much for being here, and look forward to seeing you again. Have a great night, everybody.